be no damage to the board. When we're at Enbridge, is it that's work on something should work, but it's still in it. It's got lots of responsibility. So the only one that I should be full of back shot. I gave her all my money. Over a year ago. Yeah. The charge. Call him on 6. Oh, okay. Oh, so you're gonna find it. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds true. So you're coming out, so. Yeah. Good day, I say.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We have quite a few people in attendance this evening, which we're always glad to see. We are coming out of closed sessions. We'll move right into open. Today, we recognize the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and the Audouin as the customary keepers and defenders of the Great Turtle Island, its waters, and its lands. We honor their long history and welcoming others to this beautiful territory. Our aim is to uphold and uplift their voices and values as a host nation. I will move over to the Deputy Mayor, who is going to put a resolution on the floor from information from closed session.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons. The council reconvenes open session at 6 p.m. and reports the following from the meeting closed to the public. That the council received for information report CLD EDM 25-012 direction regarding sale opportunities with the 31 Earl Street property, and council provided staff direction.
Any comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. Adoption of the agenda, Councillor Parsons.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Luciani, that the agenda for the council meeting of September 22nd, 2025 be approved as amended to consider the following items in sequence immediately following the scheduled delegations. Agenda item 13.4.1, Treasurer's Report. Agenda item 7.3, 2024 financial statements, the auditor. Agenda item 13.4.2, FIP finances report. Thank you.
Any comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we move to item number 5, and I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Luciani.
You're on mute, Councillor Lucian.
Having some troubles here with low volume on my side. Item 5 is disclosures of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof.
Okay, there's 3 of us, so I'm going to go first, and then the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Rosehart. So I declare pecuniary interest in the open session around item 13.4.2, as my husband has ownership in a building in the downtown core of the BIA.
I, Dave Barris, declare item 13.4.2 as pecuniary interest in regards to the agenda item for the above noted meeting, for as my family member, my son owns property within the downtown business suburban area.
I also declare that 13.4.2, the thought improvement part of the agenda, that I have a son in the downtown core. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luciani.
Great.
Adoption of council minutes of previous meeting, Councillor Parker.
Move by myself, seconded by Councillor Rosehart, that the minutes of the council meeting of September 8th, 2025 be approved.
Any errors or omissions? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we move to our first presentation, 7.1, Integrity Commissioner Report, Code of Complaint Conducts, 2025-0102, 03, 04, and 05. And I believe we have Megan Cowan from Aaron Fairless on line. Oh, there she is. Welcome, Megan.
Thank you. Good evening.
Megan, can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. My name is Megan Cowan and I'm a partner at Aird & Burles LLP. Our firm is the Integrity Commissioner for the town of Tillsonburg as appointed by council. As such, we have jurisdiction to review complaints against members of council made pursuant to the Code of Conduct for members of council. As Integrity Commissioner, we act as an impartial, neutral, and objective investigator. We neither seek to shelter members from the culpability from wrongdoing, nor attempt to punish them when the objective facts do not support a finding of a contravention. We do not work for the municipality. We are an independent statutory officer of the municipality pursuant to Section 223.3 Sub 1 of the Municipal Act, and we report directly to council. It is in this capacity that we appear before you this evening to present our investigative report on the complaints filed against the Mayor and Councillor Parker under the Township's Code of Conduct. I'll be providing a detailed presentation this evening with respect to our investigative report, and thereafter I'd be pleased to respond to any questions that members of council may have as with respect to our procedure or other related matters. I also note that with me this evening is my colleague and legal partner, John Mascarin, who will present on the two applications filed under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Pursuant to Section 223.3 Sub 1 of the Municipal Act, Aird & Burles has two main functions as Integrity Commissioner for the town. The first, with respect to the application of the Code of Conduct to members of council and local boards, and the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. This I'd call our investigative role. And the second, with respect to providing advice to members of council and local boards with respect to their ethical obligations under the Code of Conduct as well as the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So our second role is with respect to advice giving, this function. Our investigation that I'm speaking about this evening was conducted in accordance with our authority as the Integrity Commissioner under Part 5 of the Municipal Act, the town's Code of Conduct, and the process and procedures outlined therein. Our office received 5 formal complaints. The complaints were assigned different file numbers bearing numbers 2025, 01 through 05. The first 3 complaints, 01, 02, and 03, were originally filed with the town's former Integrity Commissioner in January and were thereafter referred to our office following our appointment in February. Complaint 2025-04 was filed with our office in February, and likewise complaint 2025-05 was filed with our office on March 24th, 2025. Now, complaint 2025-05 was related solely with respect to Councillor Parker, while complaints 01 to 04 were raised with respect to allegations concerning Mayor Gavelzi and Councillor Parker. We accordingly elected to investigate all 5 complaints collectively to ensure that they proceeded efficiently, while at the same time ensuring that the members were afforded due procedural fairness. The complaints allege that the members used their position to advance unsubstantiated claims about staff and made misleading statements to council and improperly used their influence to pressure council. They also allege that the members engaged in intimidation tactics, such as failing to treat staff with dignity or respect and raising their voices. Likewise, the complaints allege that the town's decision-making processes were impugned with respect to conduct by those members as well. The complaints also allege that the members had contravened the code through their conduct and communications at meetings held on January 27th, 2025 and November 18th, 2024. Finally, the complaints also allege that the members met with a constituent and advised that they would support the termination of certain town employees. In conducting our investigation, we duly considered all submissions and documentation provided by the complainants and the responding submissions provided by the mayor and councillor in accordance with the complaint protocol. This included reviewing the very detailed and lengthy complaints and supporting evidence submitted to our office, the members' responses to the complaints, and the complainants' replies, as well as the agendas of special closed meetings of council held on December 3rd, 11th, and 18th, 2024, the minutes of those special closed meeting of council held on December 18th, 2024, the audio-visual recordings of the November 18th, 2024 and January 27th, 2025 meetings of council at and around the timestamps indicated in one of the complaints. I'll now turn to our investigative report. As of any investigative report, it distills and synthesizes our facts and issues and assesses them against the framework of the Code of Conduct, and then makes findings and draws conclusions. Now, before I speak to our conclusions and reasons, I will note that the majority of the allegations in the complaints related to staffing matters, the disclosure of confidential information, and the conduct of the members at closed meetings. Given the very sensitive and confidential nature of the issues raised in the complaints, our report endeavored to provide as much detail as possible, however, while still preserving the confidentiality of certain information. Our conclusion, based on consideration of the totality of the evidence, is that the complainant's submissions and the mayor and councillor submissions is that the members' conduct does not contravene sections 4, 6, 7, 8, or 11 of the code. I'll now turn to the reasons for drawing this conclusion. And first, I'll speak broadly to our jurisdiction as Integrity Commissioner. We have carefully considered the question of jurisdiction in this matter, as the majority of the allegations in the complaints relate to comments and conduct of the members at closed meetings in December of 2024 and the meeting of council in January of 2025. We note that a number of other integrity commissioners in Ontario have declined to exercise jurisdiction over statements made by or actions taken by members of a municipal council during meetings. In general, integrity commissioners have been hesitant to review the conduct of members at formal meetings. The underlying rationale for this reluctance is because a sufficient degree of autonomy must be afforded to both the chairs of the meetings and the members themselves to ensure that their meetings are conducted in accordance with their respective procedural bylaws. The conduct of members at meetings is therefore typically a matter entirely of internal domestic concern, which can be tested and assessed in accordance with the rules of procedure commonly set out in a municipality's procedural bylaw. We have, on very limited occasions, reviewed the conduct of members at meetings that have been found to be truly egregious, flagrant, or glaringly outrageous. Now, based on our review of the submissions made with respect to the complaints and the relevant portions of the meetings and the meeting minutes, we have determined that the members' comments and actions did not rise to such a level as to merit our intervention and the exercises of our authority as Integrity Commissioner. In short, we have not found that the members' conduct and comments crossed a threshold level that served to distract from the business at hand, that unduly influenced other members of council or staff, or that harassed or disparaged staff that warranted our intrusion as Integrity Commissioner. We have nevertheless considered all the allegations set out in the complaints, and having reviewed all of the submissions from all the parties and their accompanying evidence, have determined that the members' conduct does not contravene sections 4, 6, 7, 8, or 11 of the code. In arriving at this conclusion, we also considered the scope provision, as this was raised in a number of the complaints. And we also considered the relevant portions of the recording of the meeting of November 18th, 2024, despite the fact that it was outside the time window as prescribed by the code. Now, given the number of allegations in issue and the confidentiality of the subject matter, we've distilled our findings in a very high level as follows. First, we find that the members did not use their position to pursue or advance unsupported claims. At the special council meetings held in December, we found that they were reasonably convened in response to concerns relating to staffing members, and that the members did not assert anything untoward, but in fact properly brought their concerns forward to council for consideration. We likewise find no evidence that the members failed to report relevant concerns to council. These concerns appeared to have been presented to council at an appropriate opportunity. There was likewise no evidence that members engaged in overt intimidation tactics or attempted to unduly pressure council in such a way that it amounted to a contravention of the code. Likewise, the allegations with respect to the members undermining staff or questioning their capacities, we found not to be substantiated by the evidence. We found that the questions and comments related to staff's authority were in the normal course of due diligence required to exercise their duties. Finally, we found that there was no evidence to support the allegations that the members stated that they would support the termination of certain employees. These allegations were based solely on secondhand comments, and as both members denied them, we accordingly found on a balance of probabilities that these allegations could not be sustained. Finally, with respect to complaint 2025-05, we found that there was insufficient evidence to suggest that any confidential information was improperly shared by Councillor Parker. These conclusions are set out in further detail in our report, which is summarized at pages 8, 9, and 10 of our document. Now, in accordance with the Code of Conduct, a draft copy of our report was provided to both the Mayor and Councillor Parker on September 5th to allow them time to review and comment on the report. Neither the Mayor nor the Councillor made any submissions to our office with respect to the draft report. We accordingly finalized the report and submitted it to the town's clerk on September 17th, 2025. This was done in compliance with our reporting obligations to the town under the Municipal Act, where the Integrity Commissioner reports directly to Council, and is standard practice amongst Integrity Commissioners across the province. The report was subsequently published by the clerk on September 18th as part of the agenda for today's public meeting, and at that time the report was made public. Now, as set out earlier in my presentation, we provided a draft version of the report to the Mayor and Councillor for comment in accordance with the requirements of the Municipal Act and our processes. Based on the review of the entire evidentiary record, and as I've previously outlined, it is our finding that the Mayor and Councillor Parker have not contravened sections 4, 6, 7, 8, or 11 of the town's Code of Conduct. Now, with respect to our recommendations, we note that Council is the decision-making body for the municipality and is entrusted with enforcing its Code of Conduct. As we've noted, we have investigated the 5 complaints and have produced a report that details our findings and our conclusions. We have done so in accordance with our authority, mandate, and jurisdiction, and with an adherence to procedural fairness to all parties, including the Mayor, the Councillor, and the complainants, who exercise their right to file formal complaints. Given that we found no contravention of the Code of Conduct, there is no authority pursuant to the Municipal Act for Council to impose a penalty. We would draw Council's attention to the Divisional Court's decision in Asali versus Hawkesbury, which sets out that a council has no power to contest or question the factual findings of an Integrity Commissioner. Our report is therefore merely for informational purposes only. Council, as I've said before, has no authority to question or substitute our findings. This concludes our presentation with respect to the investigative report concerning complaints 2025-01, 02, 03, 04, and 05. And I will remain present to answer any questions that members may have with respect to the processes or the report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'll open the floor to council members. Do they have any questions for Megan? Seeing none, Councillor Luciani. It's your resolution.
Yeah, moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that the council received the Integrity Commissioner Report Code of Conduct Complaints 2025-01, 02, 03, 04, 05 as information.
Council have any comments? Councillor Parker?
To your review, Mayor Galvezi, I'd like to make a statement. I want to begin by sincerely thanking Megan Cowan and the team at Airden Barrett LLP for conducting a thorough, impartial, and professional investigation. Their diligence and fairness throughout this process is deeply appreciated. I'm relieved, though not surprised, that the investigation has confirmed the truth that I did not breach the municipality's code of conduct. I must express how profoundly disappointed that I am that they came to this in the first place. To have my integrity questioned by 3 fellow councillors, individuals that I work alongside in this chamber, has been not only demoralizing but personally painful. The emotional toll this process has taken on me and my family has been significant. I remain confident in my actions throughout, but confidence does not shield one from the weight of unjust accusations. What's especially troubling is that this is not the first time that one of these three counselors has used the Integrity Commissioner process as a threat against me. That is not what this tool is for. The Integrity Commissioner exists to uphold accountability and transparency when genuine concerns arise. Concerns that pose a real risk to the municipality and its residents. It is not a weapon to be wielded over political disagreements or personal grievances. As councillors, our duty is to represent our constituents with integrity, respect, and commitment to the democratic principles. Differences of opinion are not only inevitable, they are healthy. They are the foundation of robust debate and good governance. But when those differences devolve into baseless accusations, it fractures the very unity that we need to serve our community effectively. The complaints filed against Mayor Galvezi and myself are a clear example of how such actions can drive a wedge between elected officials, eroding trust and collaboration. Council must do better. We must engage in constructive dialogue, collaborate respectively, and always prioritize the needs of the town and its residents above personal or political ambition. I'm committed to this path. I genuinely hope that the rest of council is as well. In closing, I'd like to thank my family members for attending tonight and supporting me through this whole investigation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. Any other comments from council? I have one as well. I'd first like to extend my sincere thanks to Megan Cowan and the team at Aaron Bareless for the impartial and professional handling of the investigation. The Integrity Commissioner is extremely important in municipal politics. They play a critical role in upholding transparency, ethical conduct, and accountability among elected officials. Their responsibilities include enforcing the municipal code of conduct, addressing conflict of interest matters, and offering confidential guidance to members of council. As someone who strongly believes in principles of democracy, I welcome diverse viewpoints at this table. Respectful debate is not only healthy, it is what we need. Elected officials have a duty to represent the best interests of the ratepayers. In every decision we make, we should reflect our responsibility as stewards of the public purse. Despite the challenges of the past few months, I remain steadfast in my commitment to serving you with dedication and integrity. It is an absolute honor to represent the people of Tillsonburg at all levels of government. I'd like to thank you for your continued trust and support, and thank you to my family that's in attendance. My husband, who stood beside me for 40 years, and my younger daughter that's able to be here with me tonight to support me. This has been an extremely difficult 6 months. And I want to put it behind, move forward, work together, and get the job done that we're elected to do. Thank you. Now, are there any further comments before we continue? Because I think I still have to call for a vote. All those in favor? That's carried. Next we move to item 7.2, and I believe it was John. Is it John? John, welcome to council, and I'll turn the floor directly over to you. And this is regarding Conflict of Interest Act applications 2025-01 and 2025-02.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Thank you very much for having me here this evening. I, together with my partner, Megan Cowan, provide Integrity Commissioner services to the municipality. I took it upon myself to deal with the municipal conflict of interest applications that were made, which we've labeled 2005-01 and 2005-02. I am the person who typically deals with the MCIA applications at the office, and I dealt with these ones. Let me say that I'll be brief tonight, and I'll give you a sense of the report and my findings in the two applications. Let me start with this, is that they were filed originally as a form of complaint in a single complaint form. We looked at it and we discerned that it was truly in its nature an application under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, which which integrity commissioners are authorized to look into since the Bill 68 amendments back in 2018. We gave our view to the applicant and convinced the applicant that there really wasn't a code of conduct contravention here, but that the allegations related to the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. So we proceeded on the basis of treating them as two separate applications made pursuant to the Municipal Act, alleging a contravention of the MCIA. Both applications arise out of a consideration that council gave as to the possible expansion of the boundary of the downtown Tillsonburg BIA. It was originally considered on August the 11th of 2025, and it was alleged that Councillor and Deputy Mayor David Barris did not declare a pecuniary interest, and he ought to have, and that Councillor Bob Parsons also had a conflict and did not declare it at the meeting, both related to the possible expansion of the downtown BIA boundary. The application, which we labeled A1, alleges that Deputy Mayor had a deemed pecuniary interest under Section 3 of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act because his son owns property within the area of the BIA in relation to the matter that was being considered. The allegation against Councillor Parsons was somewhat different. The allegation there is that Councillor Parsons had an indirect pecuniary interest under Section 2 of the statute because he is a member of the Board of Management of the downtown Tillsonburg BIA, and that therefore, he could not participate both at the level of the Board of Management and as well as the council. In a sense, the allegation is that he wears two hats and he can't do that because there is a conflict in him doing so. As to preliminary matters, we were satisfied and we made inquiries with the clerk that the applicant was and is an elector and therefore is authorized and has standing to make the application. The application was made well within the 6-week period of the meeting of August the 11th. And you may be asking yourself, how did this get in front of council so quickly? My partner had applications dating back to January. The reason being is there is a specific defined and authorized process for code of conduct matters. There has to be due process provided. That typically implies or requires that anyone who's had an allegation made against them has an opportunity to respond. Now, if we as integrity commissioners receive an application, a complaint under the code of conduct, we are authorized to summarily dismiss it. So the matter may be dealt with quite simply. When the matter goes forward and we decide that we're going to inquire or make an investigation, then due process has to take place. So there is an opportunity for any person who is alleged to have breached the code of conduct to respond. And then there is an opportunity for that response to be given to the complainant to reply and so on. So the process takes much, much longer. With respect to an MCIA application, it's very interesting. There is no process that's been set out by the town itself. The Act basically says that the Integrity Commissioner can conduct an inquiry as they believe is appropriate. What's interesting is there is nothing that says that the Integrity Commissioner can come forward and just summarily dismiss it without it going further. There is a report that has to be made and a decision that's in the confines of the integrity commissioner. This is very unlike a code of conduct matter where the integrity commissioner comes forward with findings and says to the council, here are my findings, and this is what I think about them. And if I do think that there's a contravention, then council has a decision to make if we make recommendations. It is quite different with respect to an application where the integrity commissioner is given the authority to inquire as they believe is appropriate, and then to make a decision. It's not council that makes a decision. It is the integrity commissioner that makes the decision. In this case, we discerned the application and the allegations against the two members. We believe that based on the evidentiary evidence and record that we had, that I could make a determination without going to Councillor Parsons or Deputy Mayor Barris. In fact, they only realized that there was an application the other day when I gave them notice as required under the Act, that we would not be proceeding further. And I explained why we wouldn't, and that our obligation was to report to council and not any individual member or anyone else. We also provided a notice as required under the statute to the applicant, indicating to the applicant that we would not be making an application to a judge. Why? Well, we looked at the matter and we considered the provisions of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Let me deal with, if I could, the second one against Councillor Parsons. The allegation there, and I'm reading from paragraph 42 of our report. The allegation is very specific. Councillor Parsons participated in this vote while also serving as the town's representative on the BIA board. This creates a direct conflict of interest. He was in a position to vote in favor of the expansion of the BIA board at the BIA board level, and then again at council. This dual role compromises impartiality and calls into question the integrity of the decision-making process. All fine and well, except that under Section 4 of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, there are 11 separate exceptions. These are exceptions that may apply if a member has a pecuniary interest. The pecuniary interest in this case is that Councillor Parsons sits on the BIA. He's a member of another body. That is absolutely correct. And normally, Councillor Parsons would fall within the scope of subclause 2A3 of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act that says, if you are a council member and you are a member of another body, then, and that body has a financial interest, you have attributed to you the financial interest. That's true. Councillor Parsons is a member of another body that has a financial interest, except for there is a specific exception that applies, and that is in clause 4H of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, and that's set out at paragraph 66 of our report. There is a specific exception that applies when a member of council is also a member of another body by virtue of being appointed by council. In that case, it is recognized that the member may wear two hats and make decisions not only at the body level, but also at the council level. The evil that this seeks to guard against is council appointing a member to be a member of a body to oust them for making decisions at council. This clause, this specific exemption, recognizes that a member of council may wear two hats, as Councillor Parsons did, and be able to vote both at the council level and, in this case, at the board of management of the BIA. So on that basis, there is a specific exemption that applies, and Councillor Parsons was not required required to declare a pecuniary interest, and he could participate and vote and influence the other members of council. With respect to application 01 dealing with the Deputy Mayor Behrens, the allegation is that his son owns property, 51 Broadway Road, within the current area of jurisdiction of the BIA. That is true. We looked at this. The Deputy Mayor's son is a director of a corporation that is listed as the property owner of 51 Broadway. So the deputy mayor could potentially have a deemed pecuniary interest that arises by virtue of his son having an indirect pecuniary interest. All right? I know it's complicated. In this case, we looked at it and considered, one, first of all, did the mayor's son have an indirect pecuniary interest? We were not sure that he did. The clerk was good enough to provide us with a report that went forward that was from August the 11th, when council deferred the matter of the consideration of the expansion of the boundary. The clerk brought forward a further report which indicated, and I quote at paragraph 54, and this is from what we call the Financial Impact and Planning Considerations Report, which was just at council, quote, "The financial impact on individual properties would depend on how the new levy amount compares to the expanded assessment base across the BIA area. As future levy and assessment numbers are unknown, these impacts cannot be determined. Therefore, based on this report and this assessment, the potential pecuniary interest of any property owner within the existing BIA boundary and the impact of the possible expansion is unknown. And the case law is very clear that the potential pecuniary interest must exist at the time of the vote. Furthermore, did the deputy mayor have a deemed pecuniary interest? Because we looked at the boundary of the BIA. It is described as a vibrant 15-block area of downtown Tillsonburg, which encompasses approximately 250 separate businesses. In my view, this is a large enough area within the scope of what the jurisprudence has determined to be an interest in common with electors generally, when the interest in common does not encompass the entire area of the municipality within the definition of the term, which is set out in paragraph 57 of our report. In my view, the area was large enough to encompass an area of jurisdiction in which the deputy mayor's son had an interest, but it was similar to the other class of property owners within the same area. So for those reasons, we have determined that there is no, there may be a potential pecuniary interest. We're not sure if there's one that exists. And if there is one that exists, the exception under 4J of the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act would apply. In that case, Deputy Mayor Barris did not have to declare a pecuniary interest, and he could participate and vote and seek to influence the decision of other members of council, as he did on August the 11th. So, Madam Mayor, for those reasons, we have determined that there is no basis for finding that there's any potential contraventions on behalf of Deputy Mayor Burris, nor on behalf of Councillor Parsons. And therefore, we have made the decision based on the fact that we do not believe that there's been a contravention, that we will not be applying to court to bring forward an application to have a judge make a determination. Now, this does not leave the applicant without a remedy. The Municipal Act recognizes that the Integrity Commissioner, and even if the Integrity Commissioner does find that there's been a contravention, the Integrity Commissioner can still make a decision not to proceed to court. The Municipal Act itself recognizes that within 6 weeks of being given notice that we would not be applying to the court, the applicant still has an opportunity to make the application directly to court on their own basis and proceed in front of a judge if they believe that our determination in this case is wrong and that there are contraventions and that a penalty is merited. So for all of those reasons, we will not be applying to the court, Madam Mayor and members of council. And this report is for information purposes only. The requirement is only for the Integrity Commissioner to make a decision. So therefore, council has no say really other than receiving the report. I'd be happy to answer any questions that any member may have, Madam Mayor and members of council, as to this, and otherwise that is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John. Very much appreciated. I will open the floor. Does council have any questions? Councillor Spencer.
Mayor,
Oh, yep, sorry.
am I permitted to make a comment?
As soon as we get the resolution on the floor.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that council received the Integrity Commissioner Report, Municipal Conflict of Interest Act, applications 2025-01, 2025-02 as information.
Now I'll open the floor for comments. Go ahead, Dean.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you, Mr. Mascaron for your report. And as he stated, I was not aware of this, but there's no further investigation required. And that's why I wasn't notified till late last week that this was coming. And if someone misconstrued that I was in this to help myself or a family member in any financial matter, trust me, that's certainly not the intent. And if so, I apologize for that. If that was taken that way, because it certainly wasn't. But as the report said, I believe in paragraph 54, at the risk of expansion or potential expansion, I will from here on in, if there's any decision making, I will take the conflict of interest, a pecuniary interest for anything future in expansion of the BIA and not participate in any of the conversations. And that's in fairness to the community, the taxpayers of Tillsonburg, members of BIA, and of course, the people in this council chamber. I thank you.
Thank you. Further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Okay. Our chairman dialogue. So a little bit more stuff this evening. We're moving to public meetings. This is an application for zone change ZN 7-24-17. This is a public meeting held under the Planning Act for the purpose of hearing an application for zone change ZN 7-24-17. This process allows any person in attendance the opportunity to make a presentation to council. The planner, Amy Hartley, will begin with the overview of the application.
Thank you, Mayor Gelvezi, and good evening to council. So the purpose of this zone change application is to include site-specific provisions which will facilitate the conversion of the basement of the existing duplex dwelling into a third dwelling unit. Subject lands are located on the west side of Lisgar Avenue between 4th Street and 5th Street and are municipally known as 133 Lisgar Ave. The lands contain an existing legal non-conforming duplex dwelling with an attached garage. Typically, these types of proposals would be considered an ARU within a within an attached structure. However, the lands contain a duplex dwelling already, and an ARU is not permitted in this instance. The draft bylaw has been prepared to reflect a multiple unit dwelling with a maximum of 3 units. The application was circulated to agencies and the public in accordance with the Planning Act. No public comments were received. Oxford County Public Works Department indicated that it is the owner's responsibility to confirm that the existing services will accommodate the additional unit. Staff have reviewed the application against provincial planning policy and county official plan and are of the opinion that the proposal is an efficient use of land while generally increasing density within a residential neighborhood and providing a mix of housing types. The applicant is proposing adequate off-street parking to accommodate the additional unit by widening the existing driveway, which will meet the zoning provisions as well. And appropriate private amenity space is being provided. No dune development is proposed other than the initial renovation of the additional unit. So as such, staff are recommending approval of the application and the draft bylaw has been prepared for your consideration. Subject to any questions, that is my report. Thank you.
Does council have any questions for the planner? And seeing none. Is there anyone present in person or virtually that would like to speak in favor of the application? We have no one registered. See anyone? Is there anyone present in person or virtually that would like to speak in opposition of the application? Are there any further questions from council? Deputy Mayor?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons, that council approves the zone change application submitted by Emily Zerf and Stephen Goodwood. Whereby the lands described lot 5, plan 621 in the town of Tillsonburg, known municipally as 133 Lisgar, are to be rezoned from low density residential type 1, zone R1, to special low density residential type 1 zone R1 special, to facilitate the development of an additional dwelling unit.
Any comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we move to application for zone change ZN7-25-07. This is a public meeting held under the Planning Act for the purpose of hearing application for zone change ZN7-25-07. This process allows anyone in person, any person in attendance, the opportunity to make a presentation to council. I will now turn it over to our planner, Amy Hartley, who will begin the overview of the application.
Thank you. So this zone change application is requesting to rezone the subject lands from low density residential type 2 to a special low density residential type 3 to facilitate an addition onto the existing duplex dwelling for an additional 2 units, which would result in 4 units in total. Site-specific provisions are required to recognize a reduced lot area per dwelling unit and a reduced rear yard setback as a result of the proposed addition. The lands are located at the northeast corner of Tillson Avenue and Nelson Street and are municipally known as 350 Tillson Ave. The application was circulated to a number of agencies and the public. No concerns were raised as a result. Oxford County Public Works indicated that the owner is required to confirm whether the current water and sanitary services meet the required pressures. If not, an upgrade will be required and a new second connection will not be permitted. Staff have reviewed the application against planning policy and are of the opinion that the proposed zone change supports and provides more housing choices and are an efficient use of land, municipal services and infrastructure. The proposal complies with relevant official plan policies and promotes an appropriate form of residential intensification. Site-specific provisions are required to recognize reduced lot area per dwelling unit, 1,076 feet squared, and to reduce a rear yard setback once the proposed addition is constructed. The typical front lot line is actually on Tillson Avenue, whereas the existing building fronts onto Nelson Street. So as such, once the addition is added, the rear yard parallel to Tillson Ave will be reduced. Staff are satisfied that the proposed lot area is an appropriate size for a dwelling unit and is of a similar size to the existing units on the property. The proposed rear yard setback will function more as an interior side yard and maintains adequate space for maintenance of the property and access to the interior side yard, which functions as the rear yard in this instance. As such, staff are supportive of the subject application and a draft bylaw has been prepared for your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll open the floor to council. Do you have any questions for the planner? Seeing none. Is there anyone present in person or virtually that would like to speak in favor of the application? Mr. Rowe, welcome.
Evening, Dave Rowe, the agent and planning consultant on this application. Like to thank the cooperation and the communications that my client and I have had with the county planning staff, the town public works and the building bylaw department to deal with the many intricate parts of your zoning bylaw to ensure that we actually were able to identify where there might be some deficiencies. Really here to answer any questions. My client Caleb Schulten is here as well. If members of council have any questions, we'd be pleased to.
Does council have any questions? You're off the hook. It's pretty easy. Thank you. Is there anyone else present to speak in favor of the application? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone present in person or virtually that would like to speak in opposition of the application? We have no one registered. Are there any further questions from council members? Then we will move to the proposed resolution, which is Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. The council approves the zone change application submitted by Caleb, Henrik, and Andrea Schulten, whereby the lands described in part of Lot 4 and Lot 5, Plan 500 in the town of Tillsonburg, known municipally as 350 Tillson Avenue, are to be rezoned from low density type 2 zone R2 to special low density residential type 3 zone R3 special to facilitate the development of a multiple unit dwelling consisting of 4 dwelling units. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. For the audience, this is our last planning report and it's item number 9.1, an application for draft plan of condominium. And I will turn it over to Amy Hartley for any information or highlights from the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Going to be brief. So this application is considering approval of a draft plan of condominium and exemption from the draft approval process. The development itself consists of 4 townhouse units. The condo approval and exemption process is only available once the applicants have completed a site plan approval application and all requirements of the town and county have been met. The subject property did receive site plan approval on January 2017, which would have allowed staff to review intricacies and potential conflicts with the property. So the exemption can be considered appropriate as the applicants have gone through the site plan approval. The subject proposal complies with the official plan policies by providing mix of housing opportunities and tenure forms. And the proposal complies with the R3-12 zoning provisions. No new development is proposed as a result of the application. So as such, staff can recommend that the town of Tillsonburg Council can support this application for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Does council have any questions? Seeing none, councillor Luciani.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that council advise county council that the town supports the application for draft approval of a proposed condominium submitted by Abram and David Ebert, file number CD 25-02-07, prepared by Kim Husted Surveying Incorporated for lands described as part of lots 372 and 373, Judges Plan 500 in the town of Tillsonburg, and further that council advise county council that the town supports the application for exemption from the draft plan of condominium approval process submitted by Abram and David Hebert, file number CD 25-02-7, prepared by Kim Husted Surveying Incorporated for lands described as part of lots 372 and 373, Judges Plan 500 in the town of Tillsonburg, as all matters relating to the development have been addressed through the site plan approval process and a registered site plan agreement with the town of Tillsonburg.
Thank you, councillor. Does council have any comments? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we move to the delegation portion of our meeting. So we'll have our first delegate make their way forward, right? Who's going to speak about homelessness. I will just remind all delegates that you have a 15-minute window And that includes any questions from council, so you want to leave a little bit of time. Usually I recommend speaking for about 10 minutes and leaving 5 minutes for council to ask questions, but that's completely up to you. Our deputy clerk, Laura, will be timing your delegation, and she'll indicate to you when you've reached that 10-minute mark. And I believe when you have a minute, if they go past 10, you'll indicate if there's a minute. She'll hold up a piece of paper with the information. So I welcome our first delegation. Please come forward. Welcome. And if you could state your full name, and then you can begin your presentation.
I'm Rick Reynolds. Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Thank you for giving me the chance to speak tonight. And thank you as well to the members of the public sitting in the gallery. Your support means a lot, and it reminds me that I'm not the only one who cares deeply about these issues. I want to be upfront. I'm not a polished public speaker. It's been a long time since I stood in front of a room like this, and frankly, it's not something I ever thought I'd be doing. But sometimes staying silent feels worse than speaking up. And I think many of us in this town have reached that point. That's why I'm here tonight, to speak about the growing homelessness crisis in Tillsonburg and the real impact it's having on our families and businesses and our sense of safety. My story here in Canada began in the year 2000 when I immigrated from the Netherlands with my parents. They started a farm just minutes outside of Tillsonburg, and I grew up learning the value of hard work, family, and community. In 2021, after years building my life, I chose to make Tillsonburg my permanent home. I made that decision because I wanted to be in a town that felt safe, close-knit, and proud of itself. And just 1 month ago, I was honored to finally become a Canadian citizen. That moment was a milestone for me, but also a responsibility. I've been given the privilege of calling this country and this town my home. And with that comes a duty to stand up when something is threatening its future. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not here to look down on those struggling. Homelessness, addiction, and mental health issues are real, and those suffering deserve real help. But what we are seeing on our streets is not help. Leaving people to live in chaos, in alleys, in parks, in encampments, that is not compassion. True compassion means moving people into safer, structured environments, while also restoring dignity and order to our public spaces. Every day we see signs of this crisis in Tillsonburg, and it is escalating. One resident, KE, who moved to town 3 months ago, described watching a shirtless man stumbling across Broadway near the library in the middle of the afternoon. When others tried to sit him down, he fell backwards into the bushes. Later, another person was passed out at a table near Bullock Barn beside a stolen grocery cart full of items. That same resident said his wife is now afraid to go in the mall's north parking lot near Canadian Tire because a man there frequently yelled at people who tried to park in what he claims his parking spot. Imagine moving your family to a new town only to feel safe in a parking lot within 3 months. That is not the Tillsonburg any of us want to live in. Another resident, MB, shared her shock after visiting the conservation area near the Ball Diamond on Concession Street East, where she found a huge encampment and multiple tents, garbage and clothing strewn everywhere, and even an open fire. What used to be a place where families could hike, fish, or spend a quiet afternoon has become a dangerous zone where parents now hesitate to bring their kids. And these are just two examples. Anyone who reads the local Facebook pages has seen story after story. Needles found where children play, people urinating and defecating in alleys behind businesses, families being yelled at by strangers in parking lots, businesses dealing with theft, vandalism, and damage on a weekly basis. This isn't just unpleasant, it's unsafe. It undermines the sense of security that families and business owners need to thrive, and it erodes the pride people feel in our community. And it's not just unique to Tillsonburg. In Barrie, just 2 weeks ago, their council declared a state of emergency after facing escalating violence, drug use, and encampments. Their mayor said residents have had enough. That moment in Barrie should be a warning for us. The longer we wait, the harder it will be to get control. There are those who will say, Let's put up porta potties. Let's add more garbage bins. Let's just manage it. But managing homelessness by normalizing it does not work. A porta potty is not dignity. A tent in a conservation area or park is not dignity. Sleeping in a doorway is not dignity. Leaving people to shoot up in our parks or scream at strangers downtown is not dignity. When we accept those things as normal, we harm two groups of people. One, the wider community, families, children, businesses, who no longer feel safe in their own town, and the homeless themselves, who are left trapped in addiction and street life instead of being pushed towards real help and real change. Look at cities that have allowed encampments to grow unchecked. Businesses boarded up, parks turned into dangerous zones, families avoiding downtown. Once you normalize disorder, it spreads quickly and becomes extremely difficult to reverse. Tillsonburg is still at that stage where we can act, but only if we act now. So what can we do? Council has tools at its disposal, tools that don't require ballooning budgets, but do require courage and follow through. One, you can declare a state of emergency like Barrie, send a clear signal. Our public spaces are not shelters or drug zones. This declaration brings urgency and opens doors to regional cooperation. It tells residents, we hear you and we are acting. Two, enforce existing bylaws. We already have rules against loitering, trespassing, public intoxication, and indecency. These need to be enforced consistently, visibly, and fairly. Laws without enforcement are meaningless, and ignoring them only encourages more rule breaking. Three, police and bylaw coordination. We need visible patrols in hotspots, parks, the downtown core, and even back alleys and streets. Even a modest increase in patrols can deter behavior that flourishes in the absence of authority. A uniform presence reassures the public and discourages disorder. 4, partnership with Oxford County. Tillsonburg cannot shoulder this alone. We need cooperation to ensure individuals are relocated to shelters or programs outside of our public spaces and not simply left to wander. 5, community reporting. See it, report it. We need to empower residents. Other municipalities have already proven this works. In Edmonton, their 311 app lets people instantly report in issues like needles, graffiti, or unsafe behaviors with photos of GPS. In Calgary, the 311 app has been praised for routing reports quickly to the right department and updating residents on the response. In St. Albert, the Spruce It Up app is widely used to report drug paraphernalia, abandoned vehicles, and graffiti. In Sutton, Quebec, the Voila app helps residents report issues like litter or vandalism, ensuring quick cleanup. A simple app or a web portal would give Tillsonburg residents a direct line to report encampments, needles, or public disturbances. It would also create accountability by ensuring nothing slips through the cracks, and importantly, it allows residents who may be hesitant to confront a situation directly to still take action. 6, trespass orders for repeat offenders. Businesses and public buildings should not have to tolerate constant harassment. Individuals who reportedly disrupt or endanger others should face trespass bans from those areas. This is not about punishment. It's about protecting the rights of families and businesses to use public spaces without fear. None of those steps require massive spending. They require resolve, coordination, and a clear message that Tillsonburg will not accept disorder as a new normal. Tillsonburg must decide what kind of community it wants to be. Do we allow our streets, our downtown, and our conservation areas to become overrun by drugs, disorder, and indecency? Or do we act now with courage and clarity before it spirals further? Again, this is not about demeaning people without homes. It's about refusing to abandon them to unsafe street life, while also protecting the wider community. Allowing chaos in public spaces is not compassion. True compassion is restoring order, connecting people to help, and keeping our town safe and welcoming. 1 month ago, I became a Canadian citizen. I stood there with my hand raised, proud to belong to this country, this community, and its values. With that, I promised myself I would use my voice to stand for safety, responsibility, and community pride. That's why I'm here tonight. Tillsonburg is my home, and I want it to remain a place where families thrive, businesses succeed, and everyone feels safe. Thank you again, Council, for listening, and thank you again to all those in the gallery who came out tonight to show your support. Your voices, your stories, and your presence are what makes a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. Firstly, congratulations on your recent citizenship.
Thank you.
I will open the floor to Councillor Parker.
You, Mayor Gilvezi, not being a public speaker, you did a great job.
Thank you, thank you.
You did. I'm gonna speak for myself here, but I genuinely share the same concerns that you do. It's not unnoticed. We live in this community.
Yes, yeah.
There was one thing that you brought up about apps that all of these municipalities have. We have that app.
Do you really?
We have the app that you are able to report problems, graffiti, homelessness, all of that kind of stuff. That's already here. That's a tool in the toolbox to be able to use it.
Okay, I
Our
did not
staff
know.
respond
Yep.
on a regular basis.
Yep.
So that is something that our staff has worked to develop over the last couple of years, and it is a great tool. So when you get home, when you get the opportunity.
Well, what's it called? So everyone knows.
Tillsonburg app.
Down in the Tillsonburg app.
And then
Okay,
there
okay.
is a report a problem section right there.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful.
But I do agree, it is a problem.
Yeah.
One of the areas that I struggle with as a counselor is the town of Tillsonburg doesn't specifically collect taxes for homelessness. There is actually a department at the county of Oxford that is responsible for that.
Okay.
So that's one of the areas that has been, it sucks.
Yeah,
For us as council, because we don't have that. Can we work better with the other, with the county at the county level? Yeah, hopefully. We do have an affordable and attainable housing committee that is more than willing to work with we actually have members of the county on that committee.
Okay, yeah.
So there is opportunities there. And I thank you for your presentation. I will do my part as a counselor to help out where I can and push and make things better. And that's all I have for today. Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you for listening.
Councillor Spencer.
Through you, Chair, thank you very much. I think everybody shares the concern and the report app, report a problem app like Councillor Parker's is a really good opportunity. That being said, if it's drug use or anything police wise, don't use that. Just call the police if you see drug use and that sort of thing. I just wanted to share a couple and ask you if you were aware of some of the services that are out there, because I think there is an idea that that we're not doing anything, and as it was mentioned, but we are
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not saying you're not doing anything, but it's escalating, and it's escalating quick, like really quick.
So we're 2-tier, so Oxford County deals mostly with this, and I'm just gonna share a couple programs and ask you if you're aware of them. The housing initiatives, mental health and addiction services through Oxford County, they established an Oxford County homelessness response strategy earlier this year. So it's just being implemented for preventing and reducing homelessness in Oxford County, including Tillsonburg. There is a 60-page report on it on the Oxford County website that I would suggest you have a look at. And there was just applications, I'm not sure if you were aware of or not, for different programs to access. There was 500,000, and it just closed 3 days ago.
Okay.
It was open for a month to help local community partners support individuals at risk experiencing homelessness. And I wasn't sure if you're aware also that through Oxford County and Oxford County Community Health Center, there's housing projects that help youth. And I didn't know if you were aware of our transitional houses. They all have the wraparound services. We just opened in Ingersoll, or Oxford County did. And then the Heart Hub, which is the homelessness and addiction recovery treatment. They just dedicated treatment beds this year as well. So there's a few services that are happening. I'm not sure also if you're aware that this council did ask for a report on the bylaws for loitering, who to call and what, to make the community, businesses, and everyone aware when there is an issue. So expect that report to come back soon.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions or comments? I'm the county council representative, so Councillor Spencer touched on the hard hub. The hard hub is coming. It is not here yet, funded by the province. So you'll remember years ago that all psychiatric hospitals were closed. We used to have one in London, we used to have one in St. Thomas. There is a very limited availability, so the hard hub is gonna have 40 recovery beds, 10 crisis beds, and 10 transitional beds. That application was put in by the Woodstock Hospital. It has many partners like Canadian Health. It's gonna be located in Woodstock. Then further to that, the county of Oxford is looking at creating a 24/7 extended stay low barrier shelter. So one of the reasons that people won't go into shelters is they may have a pet, or there may be other issues. Sometimes it's people from intimate partner violence that may need safe spaces. So it'll be an area where they will have like lockers and private rooms, and they'll get to stay there extended. That is in the works. I can't say much more about it. We're working on that at the county level. I can tell you now, in the winter, we have a shelter here of 12 beds on average. Only 9 beds are ever used. Woodstock has a shelter of 50 beds. On average, only 27 beds are used. People from Tillsonburg can get a ride to Woodstock, to the shelter in the summertime. Again, it's typically at half capacity. There was an excellent report in the spring regarding homelessness on the county agenda. If you want to reach out to me, I can send you the link. The number one reason for homelessness is mental illness. The second reason is drug addiction. And the third reason, unfortunately, is intimate partner violence. A lot of people tend to think it's economic reasons, like affordability is actually way down on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those are the top 3. Things to remember though, and this is where it gets challenging, and like, I don't just agree with what you're saying, and I'm gonna say it sometimes gets really frustrating at this position as well. Homelessness is not illegal, right?
No,
It's
and I'm not saying
yeah,
that, but
but
it
it
is
isn't-
illegal to make others feel unsafe.
But that is a police matter, and that's
Yes.
up to the police to determine. So, as council, we do not govern the police force. They're governed by the province of Ontario
Yeah.
and by laws.
Yes.
Okay, so now, recently though, the province of Ontario declared drug use in public to be illegal. So residents can call the police if they see drug use, and the police can arrest those individuals. Now, this is where the challenge truly lies. You cannot force people into housing. You cannot force people into treatment.
No.
You can't, it's illegal.
Yeah.
The police can't do it, outreach can't do it. So the county of Oxford, you may have seen the girls with the backpacks. They're in town Mondays and Wednesdays every week. They've outreached to every person. But outreach literally is, if you'd like help, here's a phone number. And I know that they provide them with supplies, toothpaste. There are meals 7 days a week in the town of Tillsonburg. The other thing is the police also have a unit called Enbridge, and they also send officers out for outreach. You talked about foot patrol. Foot patrol has more than quadrupled in the last year. We have our chair of police services on here, and he can contest to that. It's something that the 2 of us have pushed for. You will see officers often in the downtown core on a regular basis, almost daily. And I do see our executive director nodding his head. I do think that with the Heart Hub and the shelter, that changes are on the way. But like anything, I don't have a timeline for the Heart Hub, and I don't have a timeline for the shelter, but I think changes are coming that are gonna help address. But remember, I read the article about the mayor and Barrie. They have to find shelter for every single person, but they also can't force them to shelter.
Mhm.
And I'm telling you, the housing is available through the county. We can get housing for people, but you can't make them go to the housing. And that is one of the biggest challenges. I believe there is another one or two provinces in Canada that have actually come forward with laws to force people into, treatment and
Okay,
shelter, but we do not have it in Ontario. It might be a good thing to take up with your local MPP. I know I've had many conversations with him. And of course, if you want more information, the County of Oxford is really the entity that is in charge at our municipal level.
Wonderful, thank you.
Okay, I
Yeah.
hope that's helpful. And if you want any information or the report from the county, and I can connect you with people at the county. And or I can send links for the report, just reach out to me.
Wonderful, will do.
Okay, but whatever, regardless, we, the town, the municipality, the county, the police, we all have laws that we have to follow too.
Yeah.
Like, and the other thing that I did want to mention is our bylaws. So loitering only applies to parks. It's very site specific. It's not a broad
I
ban.
understand that.
Yeah,
I
because
understand
it's,
that,
yeah, it's really difficult to define loitering. Like, if you've got benches, set out in parks or downtown, like what do you determine as, has someone been there for 10 minutes or 2 hours? When does it become an issue? And when is it not?
Maybe
So,
it's something you guys should look into, like there's a timeline or like a time where
Well,
loitering starts.
and
you
it
know what
would
I
be,
mean?
it would become a bit of an enforcement problem, but I will say, that that bylaw has cleaned many encampments because because this municipality, this council has actually brought in very strict, bylaws in our parks with
Wonderful.
no camping, but that being said too, there is also a process, so
Yeah.
you have to put up eviction notices.
Yeah.
And it sometimes takes a week or a little bit more, but there have been many encampments. There was an encampment cleanup in fact last week.
Wonderful, thank you.
So
Yeah.
I hear your frustration, and I'm gonna tell you, we're not alone. Whenever I go to conferences or other counselors attend conferences, this is a hot
It's
button
a
topic.
probably
It's everywhere.
Canadian thing. I know.
Yeah, so I really appreciate
Wonderful.
you coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we have Councilor Parker.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rosehart. The council received the delegation from Rick Arnutz regarding homelessness information.
Does council have any further comments? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. Timothy, welcome to council.
Hi there, how you doing? Thank you, Mayor.
Very good.
Council, how you doing? My name is Timothy Wainwright. I came to town about 3 years ago. I'm a poet, an amateur poet. I published a self-book in 2011. I still have to book release it, but for the last couple of years, I've spent some time down at 200 Broadway, which is the mall. I have stories I've been writing. It's your book, it's called 200 Broadway. You just can't write that stuff. I have met tons of people. Been very interesting. I have a great time downtown. I'm an artist. I play music too. I don't know if you've ever seen me down there playing in front of the mall. I started using it to bust my stage fright. I still shake a bit here, but every artist will tell you, you still need to get through it. It can be hard to put yourself on the line. I got a quick little tiny speech, and then I got a quick little idea that might be interesting, might be not, but like a lot of people, especially as amateur artists, I still am on disability. Over 31 years ago, I volunteered to be part of the mental health. In my book, it really did help me. There's plus sonnets in there, and sonnets are 14 lines whereby there's 8 lines of problems and 6 lines of solutions. It helps us understand that this world, there'll always be more problems than solutions. We just have to deal with it, get past it day by day. Now, I'll just go with this little speech I have, then my little idea, and I appreciate your time so far. Leaders lead by example of trials and tribulation. A true king is equal to his people, less than his subjects, whereby his subjects are the first 5 days of creation. Can you believe a true king lives in the kingdom and assists his people to be better than himself? Volunteers to walk with his people, for the people. He seeks the least and helps them to become better. Money is a currency like blood and water. It really is meant for men to be equal, for equality, as a team. Now, a team is truly only as good as its weakest member. One being homeless means everyone's homeless. I don't mean to be rude on that, but there's some interesting thoughts of it. A lot of people dream, I had a dream come to me last night about a thought. Be very interesting is, town has a lot of power and a lot of pull. Very interesting, friend of mine, we were thinking about making a podcast. I've gone to others in town last year, and as an amateur, I don't know, sometimes not exactly the best for holding my anger back and stuff, but I think I can do better in the future. Well, my idea is to make a movie. I would like to call it the Great Return of the Soapbox Derby. I know we used to have soapboxes here. I'm kind of writing some, I mix it in with the stories I have here and others. It's a story. I know I have a meeting with you next week, Deb, Mayor, and I'd like to put something together that's more interesting and more collaborative, and ways to make fundraising possible. As an artist, I have lots of art. My book, I'm Still Living Below the Line. I'm all part of a movie too that was made in 2022. It was first a skit. There was 14 or more of us. We got together and we co-wrote it. We put through the whole process and we turned it into a movie too. It's called Living Below the Line. It's part of the basic income groups. There's 13 other foundations, including women's groups and other theater people, which is very interesting. That could help me lead into it. So I guess with that said, though, I'd like to put that idea on the table that maybe this town could use the people and others to make a movie for homelessness, to support it and put towards it. And, do more than just save Tillsonburg trash. We did, I don't know about you guys, but I think in the future, put our energies together and just completely end homelessness. But that's not today. But, there's always going to be problems. But thank you very much. And I will meet you again on the 30th.
Good night. I'll open the floor to council. Do you have any questions? So to be clear, what is it you're looking for from council? For funding or?
Well, I try to do more in the future. I'm the amateur. I'm absolutely terrible with money. I'm terrible stepping up for myself. Over the last few years, I've tried, dealing with mental health for many years. You believe that you're useless. And I mean, a lot of people I met downtown, they get up in the morning and they already know. They're told many times they're stupid, they're useless, they're druggies, they're idiots. So what do? They just keep doing it. And it's just an environment, environmentally frozen, I suppose would be a good way of looking at it. And I think a lot of people around the world are. I think it's not by choice, it's by governing, I guess, education. Maybe, getting involved and getting some funding. I have other ideas. I've done work in front of the BIA, in front of the mall too, some benches, and I completely volunteered for it. I haven't received anything for it. But at the same time, this is a project I think could be fun. I don't know how much energy it could be, overwhelming maybe, but I'll continue with a better process and write down more about what I'm looking for next week and how I can go further with it.
Have you looked in, there's a lot of funding for arts and different programs. Have you looked into any type of upper tier funding from the province or federal government?
Be honest, I tried to have different efforts and I just don't know how to do it myself. I got YouTube things for over 10 years now. I've had songs, I got a lot of interesting art stuff. I do think I'm pretty talented at that music too, and my art, I do believe will get noticed someday, but hopefully before I die. Like some artists get, but without the joke aside, I'd like to maybe even find some avenues where I can find the pen or someone who can actually, give me some assistance, because I live below the line. I'm not doing that anymore. I gotta step up. And it's one way or another, but
and I have sent some recommendations. You've gone to the Livingston Center.
I've done a lot, and now, without saying too much, I think I want, serenity is what's done is done, and let's move to tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Spencer.
Through you, Chair, just a question. Were you playing music at the event on Wednesday last week?
Yes.
I heard you and you were very good.
Oh, thanks, Diane. Just working on some kinks, Wait till the music actually comes. Thank you.
Any further comments?
No, just I'll see you next, or 30th, I believe we have a meeting.
Yes.
And then I'd like, well, I'll
Thank
have
you.
more conversation and thank you. Thank you.
Councillor Rosehart.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Spencer. That council received delegation from committee rider regarding homelessness and ventilation. Thank you.
Any further comments from council? All those in favor? Here. Next, our last delegation, we welcome Bessie Goosens.
Might want to bring it up. Here, this ring here, what's your first one?
Hi, everybody. My name is Jesse Goosens. I am a property owner of 15 the 20 Oxford Street. Just going to my papers out here, but so back in June, a proposal came to council to discuss the idea of basically getting a, well, they call it spatial separation agreement between 1521 Oxford Street and 52 Broadway. So if you're looking at the picture on the screen, the big white building is our building and the lot to the south is 52 Broadway. We are currently in the process of doing a renovation on that property. We actually haven't submitted for building permit yet, but we plan on doing that in the next 2 weeks. And as part of that, we would like to be able to have a limiting distance agreement with the town to allow us to not put fire shutters on the south side of our building. So if you go to the next slide, and just keep going. So this is our proposed drawing of our space. So as you can see on our floor plan right now, the south side of the building is actually the top of this drawing. So if you're thinking about that parking lot, our building already opens up onto the town's property. So what we are asking for is a agreement with the town so that the town would not develop 1.5 meters off of our property. As you can see, based on this drawing right now, we already have doors opening up onto the town property. So just to be clear, we are already basically operating an informal limiting the distance agreement with the town. And I'm sorry if I'm not using the right lingo. I'm an accountant, not a building department guy. But we already have access to our building from the property, and we need that access to be able to safely enter and exit our buildings. We're not allowed to just have one entry in front of our building. We need to have 2 exits, one at the front, one at the back. So my goal today is to get this re-tabled, because all we're really talking about here is basically formalizing an agreement that we already have with the town. We're already accessing that sidewalk on the southern side of our building and using it to access our buildings. I can put the fire shutters up. That's not my concern. I just don't really understand what's the point of spending $12,000 on fire shutters that are going to require maintenance. They don't look good. Like, it's not aesthetically a good thing to have. And it just doesn't make a lot of sense to be doing that on the south side of this building. If you flip to the next page, you can see we already have a door to the far right and a door where Hurley's accesses the building already. All I'm asking to do is put some more windows on the side of this building. And to do that, without having to put fire shutters on the building, I need to have a agreement with the town that the town would not develop the first 1.5 meters of the property And my point of this is the town can't develop that land right now anyways. I have doors that open up onto town property. I think that we need to work as friendly neighbors in this situation, just like we do in the front lot. We own the property to the front. We own all the parking. And the town owns the park, but it's a public parking lot. Everybody works cohesively. We work with the town and operate as friendly neighbors. I'm asking the same in the back to be able to access the back of our building and not have to put something on the back of our building that just really doesn't make a lot of sense, in my opinion. That's basically it. I don't want to overcomplicate this or mix my message at all. I need to have something put together here. I can put the fire shutters on. To me, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what purpose they provide in this scenario. And I think a limiting distance agreement is a much more practical way to do this. Was speaking with Gino, who's chief building officer for the town. This was his idea. He came to me and I said, can I buy the 1.5 meters off the town? He said, no, that's way too complicated. Why don't you just do this agreement? We'll just agree not to develop this chunk of property. That to me seemed like it made a lot of sense. So that's the way I've gone with this. Anyways, I think that's it. If you look at my slides, the following paragraph, on the next, sorry, that's what a fire shutter looks like. It's got metal rails on the side. It's got a metal bottom. Everything's gonna rust over time. And it's gotta be maintained. It's just, we know what happens. Put something on a building, 15 years later, it's gonna get ripped off or it's gonna rust and it's gonna look like junk. I'd rather just have a nice stucco building. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. The very last slide, I apologize. This is more or less just a summary of the actual report. Just ignore that when you're looking at this later, if you're looking at this later. But I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any concerns.
Councilor Parsons.
You put that slide back. That shows the sidewalk, please. So, a couple of questions. Thank you for your presentation, Jesse. You said that you already have an agreement with the town of Tillsonburg for 1.5 meters. Is that for sure? Like, you have that on title?
No, we don't. It's just an informal, just like, think about it right now.
So essentially, your property stops at your building wall. That sidewalk is on town property.
Exactly.
So I don't know if it's as easy as, it sounded to me that you already had that 1.5 meters established with the town.
Informally, we do, because the town, if the town built a building on their property, I would lose access to my building, right? Like, if the town built right up against me for our building there, we would lose access. So the current agreement, when the building got built, is that they said, hey, you can access your building from our property. The town owned that parking lot when this was built. And presumably the building officers at the time would have said, hey, your doors open up on our property. We're okay with that because it's a parking lot, right? And so that to me is
My second question, and that, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't think that simplifies the situation for the spatial separation as much as I thought it might. But and the building inspector is not available for this question, but have you asked him what the clearance is if there was 1.5 meters to not have a fire shutter? Is 1.5 meters?
1.5 meters works.
Works for regular windows?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to know that for clarification, and we'd need him to confirm that.
And the sidewalk is more than 1.5 meters.
Well, and I see, yeah, it's more than 1.5 meters, plus there's a step out from the sidewalk, comes right over in the lot, so I think that'd be something that we'd have to look at. Thank you, I just wanted to clarify that.
Director of Operations, can you confirm that? Want to ask you a question?
Yeah, if in fact there was an agreement established, because there isn't one right now, for 1.5 meters or a little bit more, whatever the width of that sidewalk is. I'd like to know from the building inspector as to what would eliminate the need for a fire shutter. In other words, would a regular glass window be able to be within 1.5 meters of an adjacent building? That's I guess what I'm asking. Thank you.
So through the chair.
what I recall from the conversation last time, and the CEO is not here and is out. One of the issues with the agreement is that it will prevent the town to develop that property in the future. Now we have a kind of easement that will prevent to use that property, or will be any future transactions, we need to consider that. That's one of the options. I remember that is, we were not recommending the agreement at the time. However, we're here to follow council direction. From what I recall, I can confirm with the CBO, but it looks like what he says is accurate. The 1.5 meters into our property will allow you to have these windows installed.
So to respond to that, I do want the town to be limited to not be able to develop that parking lot there, because that wouldn't be fair. I wouldn't be able to access my property. In the north part of the property, I own land adjacent to the park. If I built a fence around the entire park and blocked people's access to the parking lot, that wouldn't be neighborly, right? That doesn't, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just saying, like, that's what I'm asking here is I just wanna have access to my building. And I think that should be, well, apparently it needs to be legally done so that we have a correct arrangement here between my property and the town, because right now we access the property from the town's property. And it seems we need to have some sort of agreement to do that, without having to put fire shutters up. That's really what I want to document is the agreement that's already been happening for the last, I don't know, probably 80 years.
Yes, oh no, I know we've already dealt with this, the decision was made, but I'm trying to think here in terms of what options could exist, whether, I mean, first of all, there would have to be some property declared surplus to allow an easement, I think, and then Mr. Goose could buy whatever's needed to, or he could bid to buy, or others can buy. To create that space that he requires.
So that's what I asked Gino though, and he suggested a limiting distance agreement, which is what this report from June 16th talks about. He said that is a simpler version of that without having to basically do a severance, or not severance, but a
declared surplus.
Yeah, like, I don't think we need to complicate it that much. I think we just need to have an agreement between the two property owners.
Perhaps this should be sent back to staff.
But I think then, though, with that, if the last report identified, then town's land becomes useless, essentially. Like, we can't build on it.
You can't build on 1.5 meters off of my building. That's all I'm asking for, the 1.5 meters.
Okay, see this?
Yeah, so to add to that, I agree with Jesse there that what's required is that the agreement, the spatial separation agreement specifies that no building can be built within 1.5 meters of that wall. As you can see already, I think Jesse's argument is that we already have a practical limitation anyway, because if we block those things, we'd be in contravention of that spatial separation anyway. So he wants to extend what's in place practically, but not legally, along the entire wall where the existing windows doors already are, and extend that slightly where he's saying the proposed side of the windows are. So from my perspective as the real estate guy, I don't have a concern with that, because if we were to build a building on that site, we would have to renegotiate. You'd have to do a really tight development anyway, so I'm not concerned with a 1.5 meter setback, because we'd have to leave a pathway there or the sidewalk to allow access to that building anyway. So I don't have any concerns, but there may be other concerns that council has. Thank you.
I just think that some of this information is contradictory to the report that council already approved, which is where my concerns lie. Councillor Spencer.
Through you, Chair, I'm hearing what everyone's saying, but in the June report, and maybe this is a question for the clerk. So this is what's happening, but not legal, is that correct? The 1.5 where it's not written.
It would be legal non-conforming right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if we wanted more information, maybe on this spatial separation, Is that a reconsideration of the last vote, or can we ask for more information on what a spatial separation would look like from the CBO or the operations department?
You, Mayor, to council. This is a very specific situation. Council did receive a report on it, did make a decision, effectively a non-decision. It was to do nothing. In my view, it would require reconsideration to open the matter up. Yeah.
Worship, just through your, can we clarify with the clerk, motion reconsideration would require 2/3 vote of council to do this evening, or how do we move forward on that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, just to explain the process for reconsideration. As per the town's procedural bylaw, a motion to reconsider must be made by a member who is on the prevailing side. Any member can second the vote. The effect would be to suspend all action of the original motion until the reconsideration. That would then put the original motion back on the floor, and council could amend it as it wishes.
At a later meeting or on this meeting tonight?
Council could do it currently, and sorry, I failed to note that the reconsideration vote only requires a majority vote.
Councilor Spencer, and then Councilor Parker.
Sorry, one more question. If I were to do a reconsideration, at that time, could we ask for more information on the spatial separation from the CBO?
So if the reconsideration is voted on in favor, then the main motion is on the floor and council can amend it as they wish. And if that's to request further information, then council can do that.
Councilor Parker?
Yeah, my question was, in regards to the motion to reconsider. To be honest with you, I can't remember which way I voted. I have no problem putting the motion on the floor, if that is needed, but it was not a recorded vote, so how do we know that?
I could add that I know that I voted as the recommendation, so I'd be happy to put a reconsideration with the deputy mayor as a second.
I seconded.
So moved by Councillor Spencer, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that resolution 2025-215 pass at council meeting of June 16th, 2025 be reconsidered.
So mover and seconder, fine with that. Any comments? All those in favor? Well, I can't see Councilor.
He's
Yeah, it's a giant plan.
Is it?
okay. Hand up right
I
there.
need some. I can't switch my.
Oh, he might have a question.
Now you question.
Do you have a question, Councilor Luciani?
No, not really a question, but I was going to state that I think part of the original motion when it came on the floor was there was a little bit of confusion as far as how much limiting that would be for that entire area to be redeveloped. And if we're looking at a short 1.5 meter thing, I don't know whether that would have affected at that time. I think if we would have understood that, this vote may have went different. But anyways, I'll support carrying forward here.
Thank you. I apologize because I couldn't see you for a few minutes. Okay, so anyways, the reconsideration passed. So now we go to the original motion, and can you read that for council?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to council, the original motion, 2025-215 is now back on the floor, is moved by Councillor Luciani, seconded by Councillor Parsons, and it reads that report OPD 25-031, titled Spatial Separation Agreement between 1521 Oxford and 52 Broadway be received as information, and that council's, and called B is that council selection option 3.
Councilor Spencer?
Thank you, through your chair. So to the clerk, would we receive this as information, the delegation? At some point and then add that in? And can we ask for, or do we even need, I guess it's a question to Council, do we need further information on this from the CBO?
Well, in my opinion, I think it'd be helpful if he was here at the next conversation. Because he's the expert.
Yeah, we can't speak for motion. Good try. I'm gonna give you an A for effort. The other thing council could do is defer it to the next meeting, have the report brought back. Like, I don't know if there's any new information, but council could defer it to the next meeting, have the report come back and ask that the CBO be in attendance so that council can ask some questions.
Yep.
That to me might be a solution that would work. We can defer it, right? We'll go back on the floor, now we can defer it.
I would move so.
Councillor Parsons. Seconded. So the motion's on the floor and now we're deferring said motion to the next meeting with the request that the CBO attend to answer some questions that council may have. Because I don't think there's any new information, how's it gonna work? But I think that we need to ask some questions. Is that my understanding from council? So Amelia, so now we're just deferring item. Right, just the deferrals on the floor, we're voting on the deferral. Council understand that we're just voting on the deferral, yeah, it's deferral because it's coming back. And that's all we're doing is deferring it to the next meeting. So we're good? All those in favor? Carry. Got it?
Thank you.
Oh, we do have to receive the delegation as information, so Councillor Spencer will move that and the deputy mayor will second it. So
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that council received a delegation from Jesse Goosens regarding the proposed spatial agreement between 1521 Oxford and 52 Broadway as information.
Any comments? All those in favor? Well, that's next, we're moving to item 13.4.1, which is financial statements. Do we have someone?
You
Oh, welcome. Whitney.
Sorry, it's Renato's first.
Oh, it's Renato's report first. Just let me, since we're all over the place, I just need to go find the item. This one worked. Okay, so first we're dealing with a finance report 25.032. And I will turn it over to our director of finance. Do you have any highlights that you'd like to add for council?
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. I have some just brief comments on this report, and then I'll turn it over to her to present her presentation. As noted in the report, what items just to highlight is that the financial statements that are presented by the auditor as required by legislation is that they're presented in what's called accrual accounting. But just to recognize that council, when council adopts a budget, it was actually what's called a modified accrual accounting, because we have to arrive at what is the dollar value that we have to raise from taxation. And so that's why we might see a difference in what the statements would call sort of the annual surplus of say 6.6 million versus the traditional type of surplus that we normally look at, which is actually about 2.2 million. And that is because under the accrual accounting, revenue or expenses are recognized when they are revenues when it's earned and expenses when they're incurred, not necessarily when the cash occurs. So we send an invoice for work that we have done the work for, and so we recognize that revenue, but the money may not be received through the door until some months later. So that's just one comment in terms of looking at the financial statements versus how the municipality normally does its budget. The other note around this is that the there was one change in one of the standards that did have an impact on the revenues for building permits. And so just to highlight for council that based on that, again, it's part of the improved accounting scenario where we have received $1 million in permit revenue. But since we've only done the work up to a certain point, some of it can only be recognized once we complete the work. And so 140,000 of that remains to be recognized in future years. And then I do have a note there in terms of what was added under the subsequent events. And so overall, just for council to, I think I should highlight that it's management's responsibility to record all the financial transactions of the organization and to prepare the financial statements in accordance with Canadian public sector accounting standards and to implement such internal controls as management determines as necessary to enable the preparation of the financial statements that are free from material misstatement. On the other hand, the auditor, who is appointed by council under the Municipal Act, is responsible to provide an opinion as to whether or not the financial statements represent fairly the financial position of the organization. So in accordance with section 296 of the Municipal Act, the auditor reports to council and is therefore here this evening to present her report along with the audited financial statements. And I want to thank her for all her work and throughout the audit process. And Madam Mayor, I'll turn it over to you, to the auditor.
Perfect. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for having me.
Thank you. It's the sound of the community, so you're gonna like just try and speak right into it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, good night, everyone. So today I'm just going to start by looking at the report to council, which touches on some of the items that Bernard has already talked about. So I'll start by going over the independent audit report. So we have audited the financial statement, which comprises the statement of financial position, along with consolidated statement of operations and accumulated surplus, changes in net financial assets and cash flows for the year that ended. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material aspects the consolidated financial position of the town at December 31st, 2024. Our basis for our opinion is we conducted our audit in accordance with the Canadian General Accounting Auditing Standard. We are independent of the municipality in accordance with the ethical requirement. We believe that we have obtained audit evidence to provide sufficient and appropriate basis for our opinion. Just to highlight again, the auditor's report goes on to outline that management's responsibilities, as Bernardo mentioned, is for the preparation and fair presentation of the financial statements. In preparing the consolidated financial statements, management is responsible for assessing the entity's ability for going concerns. That's the idea that we would operate with for a coming year. And those charged with governance are responsible for overseeing the entity's financial reporting process. Just to highlight the auditor's responsibilities, we identify and assess risks of material misstatement. We obtain an understanding of internal controls that would be relevant and design audit procedures to ensure they are appropriate in the circumstances. We evaluate the appropriateness of accounting policies and the reasonableness of the accounting estimates. And we conclude on the appropriateness of the management's use of the going concern basis of accounting and evaluate the overall presentation structure and notes of the financial statement. And we plan and perform the group audit to obtain sufficient appropriate audit evidence regarding the financial information of the entities and business activities in the group. I'll just highlight that we are independent of the town, as we outlined in our letter to management earlier in the year. As Renato mentioned, there was a new accounting standard this year, PS 3400 revenue. So it does outline that revenues to be recognized as milestones are reached. So it is a difference that was adopted on a prospective basis. So this year moving forward. I will also highlight, just for information, that new accounting standards that are effective for year ends beginning on or after April 1st, 2026 include the conceptual framework for financial reporting in the public sector and financial statement presentation PS 1202. And we would work with management to ensure that any changes or impacts on the organization are discussed well in advance, so they can be evaluated before they come into effect. So now I'll provide a brief overview of consolidated financial statements. As noted in our auditor's report, the financial statements are prepared in accordance with public sector accounting standards. The consolidated financial statements of the town include the operations of the town, Tillsonburg Business Improvement Area, as well as Tillsonburg Hydro is accounted for on the modified equity basis. So what does that mean? That means that the hydro counting principles were not adjusted to conform with that of the town, and interorganizational transactions and balances are not eliminated. Hydro issues separate financial statements in accordance with IFRS, and they are audited by Bylaws. On the consolidated statement of financial position, you'll see financial assets include cash, investments, receivables, and amounts due from unconsolidated entities, land held for resale, and the town's investment in THI. The investment in Tillsonburg Hydro represents 100% of the overall equity of the organization. Liabilities include standard amounts such as accounts payable and accrued liabilities along with long-term liabilities, and also liabilities that involve the use of estimates. Those estimates include the post-employment and retirement benefits and contaminated sites, which are in accordance with PSAT. The town has net financial debt at the end of 2024 of approximately 1 million, and there are non-financial assets, including tangible capital assets, which represent the town's expenditures on TCA, like land, building, infrastructure, and assets under construction, less accumulated amortization state. Included in the inventory is land inventory, which represents land that has been purchased but is not yet ready for resale or in the use to residents. Once those requirements are met, it would become a financial asset. On the statement of consolidated operations, you will see things such as revenues from taxation, user fees, and service charges. Taxation revenue is increased due to change in levies. Government transfers from federal and provincial sources also saw a decrease in the year, and other revenues saw a decrease due to no comparable contributed assets during the year, as there were present in prior year. Expenses are presented by functional area. However, note 20 to the financial statements, segmental reporting is provided so that you can see the composition of expenses by functional area. And I would also like to draw attention to note 23 in the financial statements. And so that shows you the adjustment from the approved budget to a PSAB budget, which brings in and out things like amortization and purchase of tangible capital assets, which are presented differently under PSAB compared to the budget you would have approved. Overall, this township has an annual surplus from operations in the year of approximately 6.6 million. The accompanying notes are integral part of the financial statements. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. And I would like to thank the town for all their assistance as well as your time tonight.
Thank you. I will open the floor. Council, do you have any questions for the auditor? I'm not seeing any. Councillor Rosehart, because we were on item 13.4.1, and then it was handed over basically to item 7.3. What we're going to do is, Councillor Rosehart, this is your resolution for 7.3, but we're going to add the last line in to also receive Renato's report under this as well. So if you just read your part, I can read the next part that we're going to add on.
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Spencer. That council received a presentation by Maria Ross and Rosenberg LLP as information, and that the town of Tillsonburg 2024 consolidated financial statements, 2024 trust fund statements, 2024 sanitary sewer, and 2024 water and wastewater financial statements as audited by Mildred Ross and Rosenberg LLP be approved.
And that report FIN 25-032 titled 2024 Financial Statements Treasurer's Report be received as information. So council understands what we did. Perfect. Any comments? All those in favor? Sure. We are moving to item 13.4.2, and I guess three of us are vacating, and I'm going to turn the chair over to Councillor Luciani.
Oh, I'm gonna take that over. Councillor Luciani said you prefer somebody in the.
Yeah, that's understandable. You're next in line.
So, with that, Whitney is still supposed to be for this. Whitney, do you have any comments in regards to, item 13.4.2, the Southern Improvement Program financials review?
Yes, I'm available for any questions if anybody has any regarding it. There's one specific you'd like me to speak to?
Okay, are there any questions for Whitney? Councilor Luciani, please go ahead.
Yeah, through the chair. Whitney, I'm just looking at it and I'm understanding that from the way it appears here is that there wasn't a separate FIP account, and there should be a separate FIP account with a separate amount in it. And I guess, am I correct in that is what your recommendation?
Yes, I guess moving forward, with the program, ideally the funds would be in a separate account, just so that, they would be kind of efficient to general operations and the specific program. And then depending on motions going forward, whatever the balance may be should be transferred there. But I'd also input into that as well.
So Luciani, were you able to hear that?
I think it caught most of it. Yeah, the system isn't the greatest here for getting the audio out. Just another question. Dealing with the amount that would be transferred over, I'm taking it that there is no discrepancy as far as in the audit, as finding that the amounts are missing. It's just been spent in an alternate manner. Am I correct?
Yes, I think that at the end of the day, the FIP closing balance should be the 182,130. They have outstanding commitments of the 72,000 that would be spent in 2025. And that remaining balance, yes, you would want to have those funds be made available to put into a separate account if the FIP program would continue. But that's what should be in a separate account for those. And yes, I think part of it, what they're asking about is for the $46,097 that was spent for the general program to be applied against that amount that would need to be spent related to the facade improvement program.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Parsons.
Yeah, just to clarify, we are 13.4.2. Okay, and I know this particular the potential resolution here does include options for council on one way or another. I guess my question, and perhaps Whitney, just an overhead question is, it appears to me that this FIP program started without an agreement between the town of Tillson and the BIA, is what I understand. And there seems to be some concern about what year it started and what year the town and the BIA put funds into that FIP. I just want to know if you can give us an opinion. Where did we come off the tracks here?
I think,
Thank you.
so I think the program started between 2012 and 2013 from what I can gather. I think payments started flowing to the facade improvement program at the BIA in 2013. And I think there had they been put aside in separate accounts, you could have partitioned that off better, but I think there was some outline of what costs could be allocated to the program. And I think some of it might have been used for general operations, but I think they've kind of they have a plan for 72,000 of it for next year to bring that balance down to the 110. But yes, I think right from the beginning, I don't know that there was a formal agreement. I can't speak to that between the two parties.
Just another follow-up question. So I don't know, Whitney, through the chair, perhaps the director of finance is. There was a budget approved by council in 2024, and there was an option A, option B, and it seems to be confusion as to which budget was approved by council. My recollection is council approved budget B there, and again, it's a bit convoluted and hard to understand. I'm just hoping someone can guide us through this. It appears to me the result is if we don't get this right, there'll be a severe hardship for the BIA to do business going forward in the next budget. So I know the executive director of the BIA is here. I don't know whether the director of finance or the director of the BIA can answer that, but I need some help on this.
Yeah, I was able to, the director of finance to, one, speak to if there was an agreement and also what the understanding was in regards to that, because I differ in opinion from your number B. I was under the assumption it was A, but I'm open, it is what it is. So I'll pass it off to the director of finance.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. As far as our records indicate, through the clerk's office, there's no bylaw or agreement that we've been able to find related to the facility improvement program. As noted in my report, the only type of agreement per se is the three-party agreement that is signed between the business owner who's applying for the grant, the BIA, and the town. But no actual agreement between town and the BIA with regards to the governance and the expectations between the parties in regards to the FIP. I could also just speak to the last question in relation to the 2012 or 2013 amounts. That was something that all three parties did work on between the BIA, the auditor, and myself. We did take a look at it, and where the numbers we were able to verify is from the town's accounts payable system that showed the amounts that were paid to the BIA in 2013, but some of those amounts related to 2012. So paid in 13, but related to 2012 costs. And so that is where this financial summary was confirmed as to how they were right at the 182, 130. So on the other question in terms of I believe it was around the budget for 2024. So on the under appendix A, included in the report, that was what was presented to council at its budget meeting, and the resolution was from council that option B was what was adopted. Now, option B at the bottom of that appendix has a note that relates to the 46,097. If you notice option A, the difference under the fourth line down where it says levy extraordinary items, that 67,770 versus the 21,673 is that $46,000 amount. And so the discussion was that had council approved option A, it would have included $46,000 into the BIA levy for them to contribute those funds back into the FIP. By selecting option B, council did not approve of levying that 46,000, meaning that it would have had to come out from option B, the budget as presented from reductions in expenses or other revenue. So there would have had to been a surplus. The indication is that approving option B meant the $46,000 was practically waived. And so that is the confirmation seeking from council tonight is that 46,000 basically an eligible expense under the FIP program, which the information received from the BIA is that that money was spent in relation to the patio program, the pop-up patio program, that it was a grant received from Community Futures. It was a $75,000 program. Yeah, you needed to have 50,000, 25,000 as part of a grant. And so this is where some of those funds were spent on that patio program. It's just that there's nothing indicating no resolution of council or anything on the records that we were able to find, and hence I just a clarification tonight for council as to whether that is an eligible FIP expenditure.
Sure. But, and then just to follow up, thank you for the explanation. On the note at the bottom of that budget, it says this is a non-cash transaction. You don't we understand that? It's non-cash transaction at the bottom of the 2024 option B note. In other words, it's just a paper transaction or?
No, and I think this is part of the confusion again, in terms of the accrual versus cash basis of accounting, the budgeting versus. So that terminology, general fund to the restricted fund, is how the financials are presented for the BIA financials. That the financial statements of the BIA show the FIP funds under a note disclosing it as restricted funds. But when it shows that there is the 31,000, for example, or the 19,000, which make up the 46,000, that is when it's shown that that contribution is there, that is being recognized under PSAB as revenue being earned to match the town's contribution. That does not mean that cash actually changed hands. Hence why the recommendation to have a separate account to actually physically segregate the funds. And so again, that is accounting terminology, but what it really meant is that the total BIA account did not have enough funds for the balance that should be the portion of it that should have been part of the FIP, and hence that 46,000 would have had to have been levied if council felt that that was not an eligible contribution or expenditure under that pop-up pilot program.
Thank you. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Whitney or the Director of Finance? Seeing none, we'll call that, or I'll pass it over to Councillor Luciani for a resolution. Oh, here you have a question. Councillor Spencer.
Through the chair, is it possible that Executive Director of the BIA is here, that he speak on any of these items?
I will look to the clerk for clarification, but he's not on the agenda, so.
That is correct. He's not listed on the agenda. However, if there were consensus of council, or if there's not consensus, there are ways to suspend the rules of the procedural bylaw, but that's in council's hands.
So through the chair to the clerk, how would we go about doing that?
For the chair to council to clarify to suspend the rules. Informally, yes. So a motion to suspend the rules must be seconded, not debatable or amendable, and requires 2/3 majority. Okay, so I can assist if that is that.
Which is second. Yeah, but I'll move that and Councillor Luciani here first, since they both put their hand up. Second it.
So with that, Councillor Spencer and Councillor Parsons move that. I'll call that to question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. So your Executive Director of the BIA, Mark Renaud, the microphone is yours. Sir.
Thank you kindly, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much. I want to thank the Director of Finance and also the Auditor, Whitney Dean, for their assistance with the facade program analysis, and also for their assistance with our 2024 year end. One of the things I do really want to quickly review is when I became the Executive Director in 2018, the tracking information that I was given at the time only commenced in 2013. There was no records of any transactions to do with the facade program for the year 2012. Alongside our treasurer, who's here tonight, Emily Dorjan, and one of our finance committee members, Bossy, we've been going through all of the records for the facade program. We cannot find where the BIA made any financial contribution to the restricted fund in 2012. And when the fund was created, it was not called a restricted fund in 2012, it was called deferred revenue. So in the deferred revenue in 2023, it only shows up with the town's contribution, as opposed to any contribution being made for the BIA for either 2012, 2013. And we're still going through the records to see if there was any funds that were contributed for 2014. So it looks like there was a $75,000 perhaps hole that existed right at the very beginning of the program. And there is no documentation that shows. And I have all of the audited financial statements from those years. And it specifically talks about deferred revenue. And the other interesting thing that happened is in 2013, there was a number of expenses for the facade program, and all those were charged against the BIA's normal operating fund and were not charged against the deferred revenue fund. So that's another question. So there's a number, I think, still of unanswered questions. The Director of Finance is correct. All the agreements that were signed between the parties, it refers to Monday, May 13th, 2013, when council endorsed the central area design study. So there was no allocations made, to my understanding, from the BIA in 2012. And by the time the program came to pass in 2013, when council made a contribution to the facade program, that was not made until the end of September of 2013, at which point the BIA had already approved its budget from prior, from 2013 was approved much earlier in the year. So I guess there's some process questions. We want this resolved. I think there's some more work that still needs to be done, not necessarily from the auditor's side or from the Director of Finance's side, but to go through some of those transactions from 2013, 20 and 14, because we cannot determine at this point what specific amounts were actually contributed by the BIA. And we think there might be as much as a $75,000 cumulative amount of money that was never contributed from the BIA to the fund. And I think that's historically where the problem might have come. Second of all, I bring forward to, for council's consideration, is the other item that came up was during the pandemic. It was correctly identified by the director. There was a note on page 8 of the audited financial statements that were prepared by Millards at the time. It was Diane Ladd, I believe, was the partner. And on the bottom of page 8, it does allude to, and I think the director is right, I don't know that we can find the paperwork where council actually approved that, but there is a note on the bottom of page 8. It says, during 2020, Town of Tillsonburg Council approved up to $62,000 of joint FIP funds to be used for BIA relief programs due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The other thing I'd like to say is at the same time the pandemic happened, our board of management, which probably made a short-sighted decision at the time, decided to cut one whole month of the levy out of the budget, therefore creating another $12,000 hole. And then the next piece of it came, there was multiple tax adjustments for the Tillsonburg Town Center Mall and 4 addresses, which blew a $30,000 hole in the budget, which resulted in a massive loss in that year. And going back a few years earlier, back to 2013, as if the BIA had made a $50,000 contribution to the facade fund, which is what was expected, then the BIA's loss for that fiscal year would have been approximately $83,000. So there's a few things here that, quite frankly, from a process perspective, don't make a lot of sense. But I agree with the director and the auditor. We need to go forward. We need to correct all of these deficiencies. We just need to determine what that right number is as the reset. And we're here as a willing partner to work with the town and with the auditor, of course, to meet all of our obligations under that.
Are there any questions for the executive director? I'll start with Councillor Spencer and then go to Councillor Parsons.
Through you, Chair, to the executive director. I'm a little confused about the whole facade program committee. Is that a committee of the BIA or a committee of the town?
It is my understanding is from when I was first immersed into this in 2018, it's an ad hoc committee. I don't know that it was ever formally blessed. I think the director wrote in his report that there was no bylaw to codify the facade improvement program at the time. My understanding is it is an ad hoc committee. I think that's part of the issue in terms of how it's managed because the agendas are very rudimentary. There usually isn't detailed minutes that are being taken with action items for follow-up and so on. And I guess the other thing that's very frustrating for me when I started in 2018 was I was just handed this big file, which I have over in the gallery, and there was no program parameters beside it. So we believe that there's probably some expenses from years past that might probably should have been allocated to either the deferred revenue fund or to the restricted fund that were not. That was very obvious in 2013, for example, where there's the $50,000 deposit from the town to make up for 2012 and 2013 contribution to the facade program, but then there is no line for the corresponding expenses that we paid that year for the design fees to Mr. Berzins. Those all must have flowed through our normal operating fund. So that's problematic. So I think right back to the get-go, I'm not trying to lay blame with anybody. I just think it's not been a smooth process. There is no manual per se. And back to the director's report, it was never codified by council. All we have is this agreement that references council endorsing the facade central area design study on May 13th, 2013.
Thank you.
Councilor Parsons.
Question to the chair, to Mr. Renault. It sounds very, there's a lot of errors here and things that weren't done that should have done perhaps. And we can't lay blame for that, but I'd like to understand what is the impact going forward on the BIA of having to carry the $110,000 versus $63,000. Where does that leave the BIA going forward?
Very good question.
Options.
Yeah, very good question. So there's a number of things. I think there could be potentially a fourth option, not to be to upstage the director, but what we always believe in being constructive is letting the expenses of the facade program flow through our profit and loss statement. So we knew we were going to have a heavy year this year at $72,079. $40,000 of that is already repaid. The rest will be paid by the end of the year. And we would have to rewrite our budget potentially for 2026 to make sure that we look at perhaps cutting things or not doing some other things to let that flow through. Originally, when we asked for that $46,000 forgiveness, it was to ensure that we didn't penalize the membership of the BIA. Those monies have been spent in an economic development framework to provide the pop-up patio program and other things the BIA Board of Management invested in our community during that time. Renato brought up the point, well, it should have been restricted funds. That is correct. I think the terminology changed. I don't know what year that might have been that it changed, but it was called deferred revenue at the very beginning. And quite frankly, I think the board could have made some better decisions during the pandemic. Mr. Puglia asked me that question. Maybe we should have been more clear about what our ask was to council at the time. Our businesses were really struggling and there were some decisions that were made. So the last thing I want to see is that we penalize our membership.
Follow up, Chair. So you said that you followed from this option A or B, either way, I think, is a hardship on the BIA. My understanding is the BIA is already stretched with cleaning up after vandalism and homeless situation in the downtown and things that I think you're already doing more than you have ever done before. And it's got to be a burden on what we look at in 2026 and maybe beyond. Am I reading it right?
Yeah, we have a lot of challenges. Thank you, Councillor Parsons. We have a lot of challenges. We want to work constructively with council and with the finance team and the auditor to come up with a solution that works for everybody. I don't know. We have a budget that's been approved tentatively by the board. It's before council tonight to come up with some direction so that we can pass our audited financial statements at a meeting, just like council has done this evening, and move forward. And we want to move forward with as much less pain as possible towards the membership. However, I think big thing I would just say is that I just think the BIA didn't contribute. It's not that the money has been spent. I'd say the money just was not contributed at the right time for those fiscal years. And it's being at a point of being trying to get caught up. Like that's the stress I would say. Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Councilor Luciani?
Through the chair to Mark Renault. Is there any doubt on your mind as far as what the current FIP closing balance should be of $182,130? Is that accurate according to you?
I would suggest that we need to do more work on that. I'm looking at my two finance committee cohorts who are here, and we believe that there's more work that needs to be done. We identified even just as late as today, Councillor, that there are expenses that were in 2012 or 2013 that probably should have come from the deferred revenue line, but it wasn't set up that way at the time. And potentially, I don't know that the number 182,130, it is what the auditor says it is. I just think that number includes money that the BIA should have contributed in 2 or 3 years, and it just was not contributed. The town put their portion in, fair enough, but the BIA did not put its matching.
Just further on that. So then the amount that should be in, if we were to make a separate fund, the 182,130 is what should be in that separate fund, less the outstanding commitments for the end of this year. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the director, executive director? Seeing none, I'll pass it over to Councilor Luciani for a resolution.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Spencer that report FIN 25-038 titled Facade Improvement Program Financials Review be received as information, and that the amount of $46,097 being the net funds used for the Community Futures Oxford pop-up program in 2020 be considered an eligible FIP expenditure, and that of the 2024 FIP closing of balance, and that of the 2024 FIP closing balance of $182,130, the BIA pay off the $72,079 in outstanding commitments by the end of the fiscal 2025, with the BIA covering the remaining amount over a 4-year period of 2026 to 2029 of $63,954. 4, that the town staff be directed to develop an agreement between the town and the BIA to be approved by bylaw, outlining the specific requirements and expectations of both parties with respect to the FIP, including A, formalizing the FIP committee's operations, B, the town setting up and managing a separate bank account for the FIP funds, with such funds being restricted solely for the purposes of FIP, and C, that the BIA and town each contributing to the FIP on a 50-50 basis, amounts determined each year by the adopted budgets.
Are there any questions or comments in regards to the resolution on the floor? Then I will call it a question. All those in favor? That motion is carried. So with that, should bring everybody else back in?
Right.
Laura went up. She got it.
You're welcome.
I will pass the floor back over to.
Thank you, Councillor Parker. We are on item 11.1, West Coast for Okay, just give me 1 sec to get there. And, I guess, Andrea, do you have anything to highlight from the report?
Thank you, through you, Mayor Gilvazy. So a group from the Westmont Park area did a delegation to the Recreation Advisory Committee. It was determined after the fact in meeting with bylaw and park staff that the parking is allowed on the grass between the trees on the road. So it was determined to not be an issue. We will be looking at better signage, though. Sure that that's clear.
Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Seeing none, Deputy Mayor.
Where are we here?
11.1 is page 12.
There it is. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons, the report RCP 25-051, titled Westmount Park parking be received as information.
Any comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay, that is carried, and we welcome Jesse Gustons, Chair of Economic Development Committee, who will present the following report from Economic Development.
Hey, everybody, I'm back. Okay, this one's more exciting, I think. Okay, so I want to just give a little bit of a primer because I think this is my opinion from being the chair of the Economic Development Committee for, I don't even know how long it's been, 8 years, 9 years. I've been doing it a while. This is the culmination of a lot of conversation. A lot of people at this table have been involved in those conversations. I guess it was 5 years ago, maybe a little more than that, we were talking about the Hempson report, which was the previous consultant that provided Oshkosh County with the lands needs study. The results of that study was not favorable for the town of Tillsonburg, and then we went through a huge economic growth cycle where we used up a lot of the town land, or a lot of the land available within our town. And now we are on our next 5-year process of looking at our lands needs, specifically for residential, commercial, and industrial. Residential, commercial kind of looked at together, and then industrial gets looked at separately. But the Watson Associates is the new consultant, and we have a draft report. Before I get further along, has that report come to council?
No.
Oh, lovely.
I know.
That's great. Okay, so then I'm going to be very high level and just talk about what's important here. Because what does this report mean? And I want you guys to be thinking about what I'm telling you when you actually read this report. I think that's the only path I have on this conversation this month.
I can tell you, I believe it's coming to the next meeting.
Yeah, perfect. So when you guys are reading this, please think about my encouraging words. So we need a boundary expansion in town. We have 2 main landlords that own the majority of the excess residential land in our town. That puts a lot of upward pressure on the cost of land in our town for new subdivisions. Talk about affordable housing, right there. More supply, we have more supply of land, prices are gonna come down a little bit. We have options. Options mean generally lower cost, right? So that's the primary push here. We're also getting to a point where we are developing our southern border of the town, where all of our industrial land is currently earmarked. We're starting to run out of industrial land as well. I think those are just easy concepts for everybody here to look around and say, okay, yeah, we're low on residential, we're low on industrial. And then we get into the idea of commercial. Well, if a big box store was to come to Tillsonburg, I would propose you to think about where would they go? I don't have a good answer for you because I don't think there's any land allocated to commercial land except for a small piece of land north of town. I'm trying to stay away from specific properties, but there's not a lot of areas zoned for commercial right now in town. So with that in mind, that's the kind of the path we've got. So Economic Development Committee was lucky enough to get this report at our last meeting. It was great timing, and we've been chomping at the bit to get into this for quite some time. So while we look at the report, you have in the back of your mind, okay, let's look at this report from the perspective of the town of Tillsonburg, right? What on here will push our numbers up so that we can justify more hectares of land that we need within a 20, 25, and 30-year period, right? That's kind of where my mindset was when I was reading through this. And then I started looking at the report and saying, okay, what levers do we have here? So one of them is the basic concept that the town wants to, or the county and the consultants say, we can only put so many homes on a piece of land. And the more homes you put on a piece of land, the more homes you put on a hectare, the more dense it is, the more people you get. And therefore, if you're expanding the town, you need less land if you have more people on each piece of land. So that was one lever that we discussed, especially when we talked about Hampson. I don't know that that number is going to change much, but one of the levers that we looked at when talking about this was this commercial versus residential land allocation. So the consultant looks at it and says, okay, there's employment lands and then there's residential lands. And residential lands takes up residential property. And that makes up low, medium, and high density within that category. Plus, they allocate 15% of that land to commercial and institutional. So in our town, when you look in this report, you got to think about this and say, okay, 15% of all this land that needs to be allocated. Is 15% of our land enough to clean up our existing commercial land deficit? And our opinion at economic development, as the committee voted, was no, we don't think 15% of new residential is enough to create new spaces for commercial that are big enough for some of these larger developments. So we had suggested 30. So I just want to take this one step further. And I know, I apologize because you guys haven't seen these numbers, but the way the consultant is looking at this, they're saying within 20 years, we will need 64 hectares of residential and commercial and institutional land in 20 years. That makes up only 9.6 hectares of commercial land. That's not a lot when you start thinking about some of these larger developments. If you're getting a big box store, they're going to need more than that land, especially when you start thinking about the gas stations and all the other components of commercial that you just need through growth. So to me, that's where we kind of sat back and said, okay, one lever we should be considering is changing Tillsonburg's commercial needs from 15 to 30%. And what that does is it pushes the amount of land that we need higher. Because again, right now, 64 hectares, that's one farm. That's one farm on the boundary of our town. That's not a substantial boundary adjustment. We need to get these numbers a little bit higher so we can start to go to the county and push for more expansion with our town so that we aren't constrained by only a few property owners when we want to get residential land in the town. So that's taking a step back. I would like council to consider specifically our recommendation, which is to go from 15 to 30% with regards to the commercial land as a part of this residential land allocation. But as a grander scale, when you're reading these reports, think about this document not as a static document, that something that we can go back to county and say, hey, we have these suggestions. We need a made in Tillsonburg solution to this study because it carries a lot. Think about all the things this study pushes. It talks about expansion for our hospitals, our recreation, like all these other needs within our community are based off of this report. This isn't just a lands need study. It's a population report on our community. It's important. It gets referenced continually. You as counselors and mayor have seen this continuously, I'm sure. So just want to emphasize the importance of this document. Open any questions? Sorry if I come off passionate, but this is the one thing we should push on.
Thank you, Jesse. The committee's been working on this for years and years. I'll open up the floor. Does council have any questions? Deputy Mayor.
I do, and through you, and thanks Jesse for that. Why 20 to 25 years? Why not a longer time frame?
So the study does go all the way up to 30 years. I'm gonna lean on, economic development officer. I forget the members of, Oxford County, what do they say they typically use? Is it 25 years?
I'm gonna defer to the planner who's right next to me, please.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to, Councillor Bears. The PPS recently changed the provincial planning policy. Previously, we were planning for a 20 to 25 year period. We can now go up to 30 years, kind of between that 20 to 30 year period. So county council makes that ultimate decision as to whether 20 to 25 years or 30 years is appropriate. So that's something that could be conveyed to county council.
And not that I'm pushing for it, because as you say, we have to look after education, healthcare, all these things all have to fall into play. You can't just build houses, you gotta be prepared with the services, build the houses, so. Very good, thank you.
Any further questions from council? Thank you, Jesse.
Madam Mayor,
Oh, yes.
if I could just segue on that, I mean, what the committee pointed out rightly is that we really only have approximately 2 commercial pieces of commercial land left in the town. So that does support, in my mind, a higher weighting for commercial land in the future.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor Parsons, you have the resolution.
Thank you, your worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. A, that report EDM 25-029 titled Economic Development Advisory Committee Recommendation, Draft Lands Analysis be received as information. And B, the council recommends to county council that the growth analysis and lands need assessment prepared by Watson and Associates be revised to take into consideration the commercial/institutional lands needs for the town of Tillsonburg to be changed from 15% to 30% allocation due to the demand in the town with the knowledge of multiple churches and no space for big box stores. If I can speak to the motion. Thank you, your worship. So, first of all, Jesse, you did a good job explaining that in a way that we all could understand it. I know as a council appointed representative to that committee, to economic development, and listening to those ladies from the county, it helped me a little bit to give me the background to bring this forward. But you have spoke to us in a way that it makes an awful lot of sense. It's unfortunate those ladies were not, or that presentation was not being made tonight. I thought it was going to be, but you did a great job. So thank you for that. And I support the motion, of course.
Council have comments. I have one comment. It's like I'm fully supportive of this, but I'm not sure that council should send a recommendation in prior to seeing the report. Like, and I think, and so, like, I guess my thing would be like, maybe receive this information and then we could bring back the second part when we actually see the report.
Maybe your worship, I could move with the seconder's permission, Councilor Luciani, just section A and hold back on these end. Thank you.
Yeah, like, I think it would be, like, I don't know if I was on the county, it would be like, oh, they're making a recommendation, they haven't even had presentation from the county yet. But like fully support. So then, the mover, we're just gonna do A. And then do we need another resolution that we would, a separate resolution that we would like be deferred to the next meeting? So like, I don't wanna lose this recommendation from the committee. Okay, so.
For the whole thing?
Yeah, we're gonna defer the whole thing. We can, if it's up to council, I'm gonna say it's up to council, but we could, on the recommendation of the clerk, defer the entire report that we, can view it when we have the Watson and Associates come and present at the next meeting.
With the seconder's permission, I would do that. Thank you.
Councilor Luciani?
Good for that.
Right. And the clerk pass it. Does council understand? Any questions regarding the resolution? All those in favor? Carried.
Mayor, are you gonna want me to come back?
No. Well, you can if you want.
We'll make sure it's at the end.
Do over.
Thank you, Jesse. Okay, information items, Enbridge gas consultation. Councilor Luciani, you have a resolution.
Yeah, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parker, that council receives item 12.1 as information.
Questions from council? I have a question, like, should we be supporting this, like sending a letter of support, like CFIS? Do you have any comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that, yeah, I agree. I think we should do something, yes. I think that, natural gas is an important part of our community. I mean, even with Chef's Bakeries. I mean, without natural gas, there probably wouldn't be a factory for them. So I think that supporting natural gas and the expansion in our community is a key part of our economic development going forward. So, yes.
Yes, thank you, because I know, I'm sure it was a bit of a challenge to get the servicing to like our VIP ones, so, certainly needed in the second phase as well, so I, that's why I wanted to ask the question, so. Councilor Luciani?
Yeah, we can certainly add to that motion with the support of my seconder, that council supports the expansion of natural gas within the town of Tillsonburg.
Good to go.
Okay, yeah, your seconder agreed and council understands. Okay, any questions, comments? All those in favor? That is carried. Next, we move to the annual investment report, item 13.4.3. And I will turn it over to our Director of Finance. Do you have anything highlight from the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The information is on the report. Your answering questions.
Would council have any questions for the director? Seeing none, Councilor Parker.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Rosehart, the report FIN 25-034 titled 2024 Annual Investment Report and 2024 Statement of Treasurer be received as information.
Any comments? All those in favor? It's carried. Next, we move to 13.4.4, summary of reserves and trusts. Do you have anything you'd like to highlight for council?
Again, Madam Mayor, I'll available to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions? Seeing none, Councilor Rosehart.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Spencer, that report FIN 25-035, DD 2024 summary reserves and trust be received as information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? All those in favor? Carried. Item 13.4.5, debentures, financing application and bylaws. Once again, Director of Finance, do you have anything to add?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is before council to, as part of the administrative process, to issue debentures through the county and Infrastructure Ontario for the Enbridge projects. As per the requirements under the Municipal Act, by taking out this debt, the annual repayment limit of the town will increase to 12.86%, being inclusive of this debt, as well as all previous debt, existing principal and interest, and all debt that council has approved in the 2025 budget, but not yet taken. So that is a requirement of the act to have that percentage applied and provided for council. Now answer any questions.
I'll open the floor to council. Seeing no questions, Councilor Spencer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Deputy Mayor Barris, that report titled 2025 debenture financing application and bylaws be received as information. And B, that bylaw number 2025-075 being a bylaw to authorize the insurance of debt for this Big Swing Land Servicing Project be presented to council for enactment, and C, that the bylaw number 2025-076 being a bylaw to authorize the submission of an application to the Ontario Infrastructure and Lands Corporation for temporary and long-term borrowing to the issue of debenture for the town of Tillsonburg be presented to council for enactment. And D, that council receive the updated annual repayment limit of 12.86% inclusive of bylaw or inclusive of debt for bylaw 2025-075, along with the other debt approved by council up to and including budget 2025, but not yet drawn on, and that E, the Director of Finance and the clerk be delegated to authorize to execute any and all documents or agreements necessary to effect the same as may be required.
Thank you, Councillor. Any comments from council? All those in favor? Carried. Next we move to the Kingsman Bridge replacement and Bridge Street reimagining harmonization. Is there anything you'd like to highlight from the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We are here as, waiting for council direction on, there is a section of the bridge that is being. You can see in the picture, it's a beautiful piece of structure that talks about the history of the bridge. We're asking for council direction. There's a few options there in the report, but I'm here to answer any question.
Thank you. Thank you for saving the peace. Does council have any questions? Deputy Mayor.
Just for clarity through you, if should council decide to, because I'm reading the resolution, to go under BIA to cut and transport salvaged elements to the public works yard, can they still be reimagined at a different time?
So.
To the chair, so the intent is that we cut the pieces and move it, yeah, we can store it and pending on a future design of the bridge street, there's some components that still need to be defined, designed. We're gonna store it at the time, we're gonna reuse them.
Okay, very well, thank you.
The option B, like keeps the whole piece intact, so then we'd actually have a whole entire piece of the bridge, right? That would be the artwork. Whereas if we cut it apart, like you're looking at creating something else, you wouldn't be recreating this.
Yes, sorry, to the chair for clarification, option A is to cut it and just put it to the public works. Option B is to retain it as it is in the picture and either locate it, there are two locations right now. One is in the ravine, close to the footings of the bottoms of the bridge. And the second option is to put it where the new memorial walkway is gonna be.
Are you clear, Deputy Mayor?
I am. Yeah.
Is there any, if there's no more questions, I'm gonna turn it over to the Deputy Mayor for the rest of the resolution.
I'm gonna go with, I'll see how this goes. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons. The report titled the Kingswood Bridge Replacement of Bridge Street Reimagining Harmonization be received as information, and I'm gonna go with B. Council direct staff to proceed with the following option regarding the salvage bridge element, to retain the salvaged element intact for installation as a monument adjacent to Tillsonburg Trail or adjacent to the Veterans Memorial Walkway west of Wall Street.
And C.
And see how that has to be included. It also should a cost required to complete the selected option be funded from the approved budget for capital project number 181 Kingsman Bridge. So I'm eliminating section B, A, I'm taking that one out, see where this goes for a vote.
Your Worship, yes, thank you. I am seconder to the deputy mayor's motion, but my concern is the council spent or authorized money to be spent for design work, initial design work on reimagining Bridge Street. And in that process, there were designers and specialized professional people. And then there's the committee of volunteers themselves on that committee. But I just want to be careful that in number B, that we're not anticipating or suggesting or forcing a decision to be made that hasn't been contemplated by that committee. The committee did great work, and I just hope that somewhere along the line they be consulted, and maybe should be consulted sooner than later, because you know, if those elements are not going to be used or not in that massive amount be used, there could be money gained from the sale of the steel. So I'd like to see them involved with this somehow. Thank you.
See this?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think the committee would be excited to see council move forward with this option. I can't speak for them, of course, as you correctly pointed out. I think that we can work with the director, Reyes. We could actually involve them in some discussion in the very near future. So I think that that's probably not a big risk. I think that they'd be excited to see this. Thank you.
Thank you for, I think the citizens will be excited to save the peace. Like I fully support this. Any further comments? The only comment, I guess maybe it was a question, like a storyboard, like a historical storyboard, like have we thought that far ahead? Oh, but okay, think about it. Obviously, there's gonna have to be some sort of fencing too or something. There is a nice because it's like it's mechanical and the Dover Museum has a glass encasement. Like I know it wouldn't have to be the full height, of wanted to deter people from finding some report mentioned that, but that's one that I think that something like that might work. Anyways, it's in good hands and fully support it. Any further comments? All those in favor? Carried. Station Arts MOU, Andrea, you have anything to add?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, this is just bringing back the MOU. Council has seen it and approved it in the past. Station Arts asked that there's a clause in there that they are able to have an agreement with a third party for the community pantry. So the Rotary Club was involved and they just wanted it to be clear that they're not necessarily running it, that they can have an agreement with somebody else to run it. So that's now in there.
Thank you. Any questions for the director? Councillor Parsons.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani. A, the report RCP 25-050 titled Station Arts MOU, updated September 2025, be received as information. And B, the council directs staff to present a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute the amended memorandum of understanding with the Tillsonburg District Craft Guild, TDCG, for 2025, 2026, 2027, and to repeal bylaw 2025-041. Thank you.
Any further comments from council? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's carried. Consideration of committee minutes, Councillor Luciani.
Yeah, move by myself, second by Councillor Parker, that council receive the following advisory committee minutes as information. Recreation and Sports Advisory Committee, September 4th, 2025, and Economic Development Committee, September 9th, 2025.
Thank you, councillor. Any comments or questions? All those in favor? Carried. Long Point, Deputy Mayor.
By myself, seconded by Councillor Spencer, the council received the July 2nd, 2025 Long Point Region Conservation Authority Board of Director meeting minutes of information.
Questions or comments? All those in favor? Carried. Councillor Rosart, OPP Board minutes.
Thank you. Just moved by myself, second by Deputy Mayor Barris, that council received the August 2025 Tillsonburg OPP Detachment Board meeting minutes as information. Thank you.
Any questions? All those in favor? Carried. Motion, Councillor Spencer.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Luciani, whereas there is currently no street lighting on Peach Street between Caroline and Magnolia Street, a stretch of approximately 90 meters. And whereas standard street lighting is typically installed at 45-meter intervals. And whereas residents have reported that this area is very dark and have expressed safety concerns. Now therefore be it resolved that council approve the installation of a street light on Peach Street between Caroline and Magnolia Street to be funded from the tax rate stabilization reserve. If I could make a comment.
Go ahead.
Reports from staff, operating public works budget has the annual funds to maintain the streetlights. But for the one item that's unbudgeted to put it up, it would come from the levy stabilization reserve, which Director of Finance has currently uncommitted balance of $310,000. When speaking with Director of Operations, he shared the process would begin as soon as possible pending council approval at a price of about 20 to 30,000. As I said, this was brought forth from a few people in this area, how unsafe and dark it is and feels, and something the town could easily remedy. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, Councillor Parker?
Through you, fully supportive of a streetlight, but I'm just wondering if maybe we need a staff report in regards to one in regards to the funding. There was a lot of emails that went back and forth. That's not a staff report. I'm just wondering if we need that in advance of this, because we are talking financials. And then the other question that I have is through you, Mayor Gilvazy, to the Director of Finance, how does this work with strong mayor powers in the budgeting now? Because this is an unbudgeted item that we would be opening up the budget with.
Through you, Madam Mayor, under the strong mayor powers, any budget amendment that does not require a levy increase can still be dealt with by council. If there is a levy increase, which would mean then amending the levy bylaw, that would have to be presented and approved by the.
Any further questions from council? This road isn't up anytime soon for reconstruction or anything.
Absolutely not to the best of my knowledge, I don't anticipate any construction within the next 10 years.
10 years, okay.
I'm not aware of the
All right, and do we have an exact total cost? Because the resolution doesn't have any costing, so it's pretty open.
To the mayor, but there are so many unknowns at this point. We have to proceed with detailed design and investigation to see anything that is in the ground right now and with this. But we anticipate between $20,000 to $30,000 in the scenario that was provided.
Okay. I'm supportive as well, but I think that because it's still an investigative, and council hasn't seen a report, and just for transparency, I would like to see a report back. The council with the final funding amount, so we know how much it is exactly. But it's up to the mayor, you can leave it on as is.
I don't think we need to waste staff's time when it's a pretty typical installation of 45 meters apart and there isn't one on this road. It's 90 meters with no light. If I can also add through the chair, I think that now that we've been made aware of citizens feeling that it's unsafe and dark, that ups the ante as well, in regards to liabilities. I'd like to see this move through as soon as possible.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? Opposed? And that's carried. Notice of motion. Councillor Spencer.
Notice of motion, whereas access to private health care is growing concern for residents of Tillsonburg and surrounding communities with a significant number of individuals currently without a family physician. Whereas several family physicians currently practicing in Tillsonburg are at or near retirement age, which may further exacerbate the shortage of primary care providers. And whereas the town of Tillsonburg has historically financially supported the Tillsonburg Unattached Care Clinic to provide access to health care for residents without a primary care provider, the family physician or nurse practitioner. And whereas the city of Colwood, British Columbia has launched a municipally led initiative to directly employ family physicians and operate a clinic model that is designed to be revenue and cost neutral to the municipality and no additional cost to taxpayers. And whereas municipalities across Canada are increasingly playing a role in addressing local health human resource shortages, there it be resolved that council direct staff to prepare a report exploring the feasibility of a municipally supported physician recruitment and retention strategy, including but not limited to, one, a review of the Colwood BC model and its potential application in Tillsonburg. Two, options for direct and partnership-based clinic operations, including municipal leasing of clinic space and employment of physician and support staff. An assessment of the potential for revenue and cost neutral model, including use of existing provincial billing frameworks, example, Ontario's new payment models, legal and regulatory considerations with Ontario healthcare system, opportunities to collaborate with Ontario Health, the Ministry of Health, local hospitals and health teams, funding sources including municipal contributions, external grants and partnerships, and 7, a high-level implementation plan, including estimate cost, timelines, and required resources. And that the completed staff report be referred to the Tillsonburg Community Healthcare Advisory Committee for comment and feedback by Q2 2026. And that this motion and any resulting staff report be forwarded to MPP Ernie Hardeman and the Honorable Sylvia Jones, Minister of Health for Ontario, for information and support. And just an added comment that this is a notice for the October 27th council agenda.
Okay, thank you. Any other notices of motions? Seeing none, bylaws, Deputy Mayor.
Bylaws, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Parsons, that the following bylaws be read for first, second, third, and final reading, of the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign the same and place the corporate seal thereon. These are bylaws 2025-075, 2025-076, 2025-077, 2025-078, and 2025-079.
Thank you, Deputy. All those in favor? Carried. Council Parker.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rosehead, the bylaw 2025-080 be confirmed, or to confirm the proceedings of the council meeting held on Monday, September 22nd, 2025, be read for first, second, third, and final reading. That the mayor and the clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign the same in place of corporate seal thereon.
All those in favor? Carried. Items of interest, start with CAO and go that way. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I just wanted to mention that the Founder's Day Festival will be on October 18th and it will be held in Memorial Park. And it will be from 12 until 5 p.m. So there'll be lots of vendors and food and crafts and things to do that are from the founding days 200 years ago. So please look at our website and find the details, and we look forward to seeing everyone.
Thank you. And the memorial ice is in.
Yes, it is.
And it was done early. Director of Finance, Cephas, Carlos, Council Parker,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilor Spencer.
This past Wednesday, there was an event at downtown Take Back the Night, organized by Dasso and Ingamo. It was well attended, a really good turnout and well run. Just to reiterate that October 4th is the Station Arts fundraising gala, and I believe there's still tickets, so you can notify Station Arts to get that.
Deputy Mayor.
The last Thursday, the Chamber of Commerce had their annual Awards of Excellence. And I want to say congratulations to all of those who received awards. They were well deserved. It was an excellent evening, very, very well attended by the economic people in town, the bankers, the industries, the retailers, and so on. And I believe it was videotaped. I believe Rogers had it. And that will be YouTube as well. So it's an excellent watch. It was a great night. Everybody wins. And this afternoon, I just came back from Conservation Ontario. We were there Sunday and Monday. And this, just a point of interest, this is the 25th anniversary of the Walkerton issue for clean water. And we had speakers this morning talking about how far we've advanced and how fortunate we are to be surrounded by the Great Lakes and good pure water compared to other areas of the world. And our water is very, very safe to drink. So it's kind of reassuring that that we're in good stead for that process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Luciani.
Nothing, thank you.
I have one thing, a very well attended yearly event, Tillsonburg Fire and Rescue Services Open House, Thursday, October 9th, 6 to 8 p.m. Bring the whole family for this free event, open to the public in honor of Fire Prevention Week. This year's theme is Charge into Fire Safety, Lithium Batteries in Your Home, Food, Fun, Fire Trucks. So we'll see you there October 9th at 6 to 8 p.m. Also coming up in October, I have the pleasure of visiting grade 5 students in our traveling roadshow for Educated Government Week. And I think we're busy. And it stretches out maybe over a couple of weeks or so. And staff does a great job, but if you talk to your grade 5 students, we will be around, and everybody loves the fire truck. All right, that concludes the meeting, and we will look to Councillor Rosehart for adjournment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Spencer. The council meeting of Monday, September 22nd, 2025, be adjourned at 9:18.
All those in favor?